Hello, welcome everyone to the Spotlight here on Fightful.com. I'm Jeremy Lambert, joined as always by Stephen Jensen. Jensen, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. Had a real good day, and now I'm happy to talk about wrestling. Also, tonight after the show, don't know how long the stream will be. I got to be out of there by 8 p.m., but me and Joel are going to play some Mario Kart between this show and 8 p.m. So depending on how long this runs, it might be a half-hour long Twitch stream. It might be an hour long. It might be 15 minutes. I don't know, but I'm going to be on there till 8 p.m. So yeah, this has been a good day. How you been, man?
I am well. Twitch.tv/Fightful Gaming. Everyone can go over there. We had a No Mercy stream this past week. I'm probably going to do another No Mercy stream maybe tomorrow. I think I'm going to jump on Twitch at some point tomorrow. Joel Pearl was with me. Jarrett Bailey was with me. We were talking about cyber sex and other fun stuff on the No Mercy stream and playing No Mercy. So that was very fun.
I saw the thumbnail on my YouTube and I was scrolling around and it was like Blackman and Cybering or something.
Yeah,
I was like,
very happy.
That's pretty funny.
Very happy with that thumbnail choice. JJ wants to know if you're going to be in Impact tapings for Atlanta. In Atlanta for Impact tapings.
When are they?
No idea. JJ, let us know when they are.
I know AEW announced they're going to be near Atlanta again, I think in like July. And I always make it a point to go to AEW. I mean, I'm definitely interested in going to Impact. It just depends on what days it is and, if I can be there. But I'm absolutely open to it. I've gone to Impact shows live before. And I mean, I'm absolutely interested. I just need to kind of know more about it.
I feel like we could set something up with Impact as well to do some interviews and stuff as well.
Yeah, I remember years ago, I'll pull back the curtain a little bit as we get started here on the show. But right when I first started at Fightful, Sean hooked me up with like getting into an Impact show at the Nashville Fairgrounds. And like there was like a communication error, and I just like wound up not going to the show. And I always felt so bad about it because I was like, man, I really wish I was there, and like I didn't want anyone to get in trouble. And ever since then, I'm like, I got to make it a point. Like if I can get into Impact shows, I'm going to go to Impact shows. So yeah, I'm definitely interested.
JJ says it's July against all odds in tapings. So the Impact special, Impact Plus special against all odds in the tapings.
Yeah,
some point in July. I think Sean had that on Fightful Select. Subscribe to Fightful Select to learn the actual date. We're not just going to give you the date here on the show, even though I spoil a bunch of stuff on the show. Anyway.
Hey, but there's a good chance, though. With it being July, there's a good chance that I'll go.
Guys, you can send in your super chats, send in your humper chats, help support the show, help support what we do here at Fightful. We have a tremendous lineup, quite possibly our best lineup of all time for the show today. We're going to start off, and we have a major announcement as well that I don't know when we're going to do it, but we're going to do it at some point, probably before we do Creator Spotlight.
I don't even know what the major announcement is.
You know what the major announcement
is. Okay, is it about the like? Okay,
yes.
I'm assuming what this is. I saw you teasing a major announcement, and I was like, yeah, I almost just like said that on Twitter the other day, but I was like, maybe Jeremy is going to try to make more out of this than it is.
Of course, I'm doing the full like Tony Khan Twitter bit with the show now, since we have like a lineup of topics. I've created a graphic. Did you see my very great graphic?
I had to triple check that was you tweeting it, because I would assume maybe like JJ or Rob Wilkins or somebody like had done the work on that, and you were just posting it, but you actually put that together yourself.
Yeah, I spent way too long on it this morning putting it together. I'm gonna do this bit every single week, just the Tony Khan hype bit of like, we got the strongest lineup ever, quite possibly our best lineup ever for the show today. I'm going to do this shit every single week. I'm going to do major announcements every week. It's going to be great. People definitely aren't going to get sick of this at all. We are going to start off with Kota Ibushi, which is our other spotlight. Mix it up a little bit this week. So Kota Ibushi got on Twitter and decided to kind of expose some text messages between him and somebody in New Japan talent relations, and I believe it's pronounced Kikuchi, and I apologize if I mispronounced that. But him and New Japan talent relations, basically, he was very frustrated. The person threatened to essentially fire him for making an appearance at a show that wasn't approved by him. Ibushi, he wanted him back for Wrestle Kingdom. Ibushi got hurt in the G1 final last year. He wanted him back for Wrestle Kingdom. Ibushi wasn't ready. He was announced for the New Japan Cup, and then he got pulled from the New Japan Cup, reportedly supposed to win the New Japan Cup. He got pulled from it by Kikuchi. And then, Ibushi was like, this is power harassment. He was also threatening to expose some other stuff, the dealings in New Japan. He tweeted the symbol for the Yakuza today. I don't really want to get into that. I value kind of everything in my life too much to get too much into that. But a lot going on with Kota Ibushi. He thinks he's going to be fired. He's not been fired. There's been no official statement from him or New Japan that he's been fired. But there's been threats of firing him. He believes he's going to be fired. Where are you at on Kota Ibushi? Because Ibushi's kind of a strange cat in the first place. But, man, he could expose a lot of stuff if what he's saying is true.
Yeah, there's a lot of layers to it. I mean, even all the way back to like his decision to sign with New Japan when he had the option to basically be a part of the beginning of AEW, and like it's been such a weird trajectory for him, like winning the world title and then losing it to Ospreay like a month later or whatever it was. Like, it was like right away, and this whole thing has just been real weird. I mean, I don't even know where to start on all this. I'll start with the Yakuza stuff just real quick, and I don't think I'm going to say anything that's going to get us attacked or anything like that. But like,
these are all Stephen Jensen's.
This is
all
mine. Well,
or Fightful.
Or right. Yeah. This is solely so you'll know where I'm going with this. You're a lifelong MMA fan as well.
Yeah.
We saw this happen with Pride FC as well. And I gotta keep bringing that example up, because it's like the Yakuza has had their hands in the cookie jar of combat sports, whether it be pro wrestling or mixed martial arts or whatever it is, forever. It wouldn't surprise me at all if they're involved with New Japan. Like, that wouldn't be surprising to me whatsoever. It seems really surprising to a lot of wrestling fans I'm seeing on Twitter that like seem like they just blown away by this concept. And it's like, I mean, it's just not surprising to me, because we literally saw, I mean, you remember, but for people who might not have been paying attention to MMA back in like the early 2000s, the UFC purchased Pride, and they were going to run the company as a separate brand, similar to what Vince wanted to do with WCW when he acquired it, and WWF and WCW being different brands. Dana White wanted to do that with Pride. And then it started unraveling like how involved the Yakuza was in Pride. And like, he had to basically shut the entire thing down and then just absorb which fighters were still under contract to him, and they became UFC fighters. But so that's one layer to it. The Yakuza. I'm not saying they are involved. I'm just saying it's not surprising at all to hear that they might be. When it comes to the other stuff, I mean, from what I could tell, and granted, I don't speak Japanese. I know that some of the stuff has been heavily translated a whole bunch of different times, and
shout out to Golden Kuma on Twitter. He's been the one doing a lot of the translations, really all the translations that I've used. But I think a few other people have been doing it, but he's been the person that I've used for this whole thing. So shout out to him.
Yes. So when it comes to what he's saying about the company in this whole thing, once again, it's just all very bizarre. And I'm not saying he's like, I believe what he's saying. You know what I mean? I don't know why Ibushi would have any reason to like even, put himself in this position if it wasn't, if a lot of this stuff probably wasn't true that he's kind of claiming or kind of threatening to claim in the future and stuff. And part of it, from my understanding, from what's been translated and stuff, is that, there's some sort of infidelity going on in New Japan that he's aware of. There's some sort of, something's up with his whole not being able to get cleared to wrestle as well. There's something up with that, because he's claiming that he is ready to go and they just keep pulling him last minute. And so part of me from the outside looking in, just reckless speculation and nothing that is, I'm just saying as a fan, it almost looks to me like New Japan is preparing to get rid of him, and they want to cool him off as much as they can. Like, just not have him on TV, not do anything with him. And there's hope his market value is lower, even though it won't be, because he'll immediately. But the other side of it too is I don't think he wants to not live in Japan. I think he wants to stay there. So like, there's just so many layers to all this. And I mean, as a fan, I want to see Kota Ibushi in AEW, but then there's that whole other side to it too. As I say, there's so many layers. Is this going to affect the New Japan AEW relationship? Is this going to affect Forbidden Door? Can Kota Ibushi be a part of Forbidden Door? There's just so much that comes out of this. Does AEW want to do business with New Japan going forward if enough bad stuff comes out about the way that the company is run? So there could be a massive trickle down effect for this. That doesn't just affect Ibushi or New Japan, it could affect multiple wrestling companies. It could affect us as fans. But at the end of the day, I just want the truth to be out there. If Ibushi has something to say and he feels strongly enough that he has to say it, more power to him. And I hope that, I hope justice is served and whatever happens is meant to happen. But this stuff all came out of left field, man. Like when we started reading this stuff on Twitter, I was like, whoa, this does not look good.
So it all happened on Tuesday when he started tweeting stuff, and I was actually bedridden on Tuesday, so I didn't see a lot of it. And then when I logged on Wednesday morning and kind of caught up on everything, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, Bushi is saying some stuff here. As a wrestling fan, the part that sort of interests me the most is the stuff where he was seemingly cleared. He was announced for the New Japan Cup, and then he got pulled, and now we don't know when he's going to return. If I'm Kota Ibushi, I'm pretty frustrated with that as well, especially if I was going to win it. I mean, even if I wasn't going to win it, I'd be frustrated that you're kind of taking away what I love to do and not letting me do that right now. So I completely get where he's coming from with that frustration. Then when it comes to kind of the extracurricular stuff, again, Yakuza stuff, I'm going to stay away from. But like you said, there were ties with Pride and other MMA organizations and everything. Like it happens over there. The infidelity stuff, I believe Taka was like outed on that, and that became a big story over there in Japan. And that was part of the reason why he was gone for when he missed time. Like he was injured, but then that became a very big story, and he was like banished from his own dojo over there. So like that is a big thing in Japan as well. Of like, hey, don't do that. So he's threatening to kind of expose stuff on that. Power harassment of like, hey, I'm gonna just void your contract. You can walk. But if I'm New Japan, I'm not happy that somebody in talent relations is doing that to Kota Ibushi, who is arguably one of their top stars. I mean, I don't think it's very arguable. Like he is one of their top stars. Like I love watching Kota Ibushi wrestle. The guy's a draw. He should have held the title for longer. He was the first the unified champion, whatever that ugly belt is called, IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. Like he's one of their top guys. So if somebody's management is like, hey, I'm going to void your contract, if I'm elsewhere in New Japan, I'm not happy about this. But it seems like maybe Ibushi can't reach them or they won't talk to him. A lot of stuff going on behind the scenes with all of this stuff. As a wrestling fan, I just want to see Kota Ibushi wrestle. I don't know when that'll be. I hope he's there for the G1. You're right, JJ. Like if he's not, that is definitely a sign. I imagine they're going to be announcing the G1 lineup pretty soon. And yeah, if he's not part of that, that is definitely a sign that things aren't great. And yeah, if you look further beyond wrestling, like you were saying, like New Japan has a very good relationship with AEW right now. They're about to do Forbidden Door. We all kind of thought Ibushi was going to be part of this show because of his relationship with Omega. Omega wanted him to come to AEW at the time. He signed what he said was a lifetime contract with New Japan at the time. It turns out, I think Super J-Cast said it was like a 2-year deal. This is 2019. Obviously, the 2 years was up. He stayed with New Japan, so he clearly signed another deal with them. It seems like he wants to stay in Japan, but I still think we all kind of figured he would be part of the Forbidden Door show. Now it might not even be, hey, you're not part of the show. It might be, depending on how things are, AEW questions their relationship with New Japan is like, hey, do we want this as do we want to be associated with this right now? If it gets to as bad as Ibushi is alleging that it could get to. A lot of moving parts. It seems like Kota Ibushi, a guy who wants to sleep for 25 hours in a day, could bring down a lot of stuff here. Again, wrestling fan, speaking purely from that perspective, I want it solved because I want Kota Ibushi to wrestle again. Personally, I want it solved because I want Kota Ibushi safe, and it seems like he's very concerned about everything going on right now. Whatever happens, I hope that it works out the best for Kota Ibushi, because it seems like above anybody else, he's the one that's being fucked with right now.
Yeah, I totally agree. And until more comes out about all this, it's hard to like, we need a lot more information about like a lot of this stuff. But and also, to both of our points, it isn't even just AEW. Like, I mean, New Japan works closely with Impact Wrestling, and like there's, and the other sad thing for New Japan, not for the people who potentially deserve some sort of punishment, but for like the wrestlers and like the people, the fans and stuff, New Japan has really hit a hot streak again recently, where like they're getting a lot of buzz. In the pandemic, they lost all their buzz, and that was a rough couple years for New Japan, and they're finally like getting back on track, it seems like. And yeah, this isn't good. It doesn't seem good, but once again, I want more information to come out before I like have, I guess, full opinions on it. But from where we're at right now, I think I've done a pretty good job kind of letting you know where I'm at. You know what I mean? I as a fan, just like, I just want to see Ibushi wrestling. And I really want to see him at the Forbidden Door. It would be very weird if he was on Forbidden Door as like an AEW wrestler and not a New Japan wrestler by that time. You know what I mean? Or even not on the show at all. So yeah, I just hope they get that all figured out, and whoever needs to get kind of punished for it, it's rightfully deserved,
Guys, everyone follow Golden Kuma on Twitter. I believe it's Golden_Kuma. I will double check that because I don't want to give the wrong Twitter, but he is the one doing a great job translating, and like really the way that I've been keeping up with everything, because if you try to Google, it is Golden_Kuma. If you try to like Google translate Ibushi's tweets, they don't make as much sense. Like if you Google translated the one about fired, like he said he had been fired. And if you used Golden Kuma's translation, it was, I think I'm going to be fired. So, go with those translations with everything. Follow him. He's done a great job keeping everybody up to date. But yeah, hopefully it gets solved again on a personal and professional level for Ibushi, because both are not looking great right now. And professionally, it's definitely not looking good. And the way he's kind of tweeting, like personally, he sounds very concerned and worried about like what could happen. So again, just wish the best for Kota Ibushi in both aspects. Speaking of Forbidden Door, Stephen Jensen, the other spotlight, my spotlight when it comes to other, is when we talk about dream matchups at Forbidden Door, we've kind of thrown out a few. One that I don't think us two personally have touched on is CM Punk against Kenta, which is a long-standing rivalry over the go to sleep finisher. They've gone back and forth on Twitter a couple of times. They've gone back and forth in interviews a couple of times. Connor Casey of Comic Book, pal of the show, he asked CM Punk, like, hey, what do you think about facing Kenta at Forbidden Door? And CM Punk just outright said no. That was his only answer. This is his only comment. Just no. And then Kenta kind of saw that story, and he replied, and he said, oh, yeah, keep using my finisher then. I don't know if they're working. I don't know if there is a real dislike between the two. I think there is some actual heat when it comes to the go-to-sleep finish, but I would hope they would settle this and give us this match.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know how much of it is real and how much of it isn't, like how much is work versus shoot here. But I mean, if you're Kenta though, like I get it. I mean, CM Punk took that move and like popularized it in the US, way bigger than Kenta ever was able to. But we all saw him doing it in Ring of Honor and in Noah and stuff. So it's like we knew where it came from, and I've always considered that move Kenta's move.
Yeah,
and as it should be. He invented it, but CM Punk definitely popularized it. Like way more people, like in like modern day, I'm sure way more people. So well, just because I mean, at the end of the day, way more people probably even just know who CM Punk is than who Kenta is. But so I get it. I get it, and I also CM Punk's the kind of guy that I don't know. It's like I feel like CM Punk would be the kind of guy that just kind of like, I'm so big at this point that like this just doesn't even matter to me. Like, okay, keep complaining about me doing this move, like whatever, but like I'm beyond this at this point, like so that's just kind of how I feel about it. I feel like it's like, there's like a level of disrespect almost, right? Where CM Punk should be thanking him for this move because it's Kenta's move. But at the same time, it's like he's been using it for forever. And like, yeah, Kenta versus CM Punk is a dream match. I want to see it as a fan, but if we're being honest, I think there's bigger dream matches for CM Punk out there than Kenta in his own mind and just in reality as well at this point. If this match was happening back when Kenta was at like his peak popularity in Ring of Honor and like CM Punk was hitting his peak popularity in WWE or whatever, and they wrestled each other, that'd be different. But it is keeping it real. Kenta, and you'll remember this as well. The buzz Kenta had like heading into his signing with WWE was like massive. Like he was like the biggest name outside of the WWE. And now it's just, I like Kenta, but he doesn't seem, I could understand why CM Punk it probably just isn't that interested in this when there's bigger dream matches for him available to show like that.
I think that's kind of where I'm at as well, is CM Punk doesn't quite see Kenta as that big of a match compared to something like an Okada or Tanahashi or anything. Like maybe he is just annoyed by Kenta with this whole thing. I don't know, but I want to see the match because they have gone back and forth so much. Obviously, if there's legit heat there and they can't set it aside, hey, don't do the match. Kenta was in AEW. He was the first person actually through the Forbidden Door, which was the big shocker when he showed up and attacked Moxley. This is, of course, like months before CM Punk had signed with the company. So I don't know if Kenta is going to be back. I don't know if he's going to be part of Forbidden Door. He's actually been out of action, I think, since Wrestle Kingdom following the match with Tanahashi, the no DQ match. I don't think he's wrestled again. I suspect he might be part of the G1, but I don't know if he's going to be part of Forbidden Door. I would like to see him there. I've always loved Kenta from his time in ROH. It's a weird thing between these two because part of me thinks they are working a little bit, but then I've also like from people who really like Kenta have been told like, no, Kenta like actually doesn't like that he uses this move. And I think that could be bothersome to Punk that he keeps just talking about it and is just annoyed by the whole thing.
Yeah. And when also part of me is also kind of curious as to why CM Punk hasn't just changed it. I mean, like he has multiple go-to moves that he uses finishers. I mean, he's got the Anaconda Vice, and in AEW he can really kind of finish you with various stuff. AEW is pretty good about not, I mean, everyone has their finishing moves, of course, and everything, but sometimes matches just kind of end more of like a sports way than like always having to go right to the finisher. And I think Punk, he's got the Pepsi plunge. Obviously he doesn't want to do that every match because that's a killer for his knees. But part of me is kind of like, if you're bothered by Kenta, well, here's the thing. I don't think he's bothered by it. That's the big thing. Is I just don't think he cares. It's like barely on his radar. But if he did care, he would have just changed his finisher. You know what I mean? Just been like, okay, whatever. Like I don't need to like the move isn't the reason I'm over isn't to go to sleep. Whereas if we're being honest, a big reason why Kenta was as over as he was because of the go to sleep. That finisher was so well protected in the early 2000s that, I mean, it's still always been well protected, but especially then. So yeah, it's just one of those things where I think we're both on the same page. It's like, I just don't think Punk cares that much. And when you have options like Okada or Tanahashi or Ospreay and people like that, I don't think that CM Punk is losing any sleep over like not having a Kenta feud. I think he's got bigger fish to fry, I think.
What a diss to Kenta. CM Punk is like, you're so small. I mean, Kenta's a legend. Like, you're so small. I'm too big that whatever you say, it doesn't even hit my radar for like a month or two. Just a slap in the face to Kenta. Best wishes.
But you agree that you agree though? Cause like, I'm not trying to like diss.
No, it's not, I don't think, I didn't mean it as like you saying, because I kind of like do agree that I think maybe CM Punk just doesn't see Kenta on that level. And look, he might, but the way he just kind of dismisses everything, it doesn't seem like it. Because Kenta is usually the one like kind of calling him out, and Punk is either dismissive or no comments on it the entire time. And that's like, I think the articles we have written when it comes to CM Punk and Kenta is hey, Kenta wants CM Punk. Kenta comments on Punk return kind of thing. And CM Punk is just, I mean, literally the man said no. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm with you. It does feel kind of like a diss to Kenta because the man is a legend, honestly. Like,
well, and if you're CM Punk and you actually do have an issue with Kenta, this is the best way you could possibly deal with it if you're Punk, because you're basically just big leaguing him. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah,
you're complaining about me over and over. Like, you're doing this because of my fame, and like you're trying to essentially leech off of my fame and where I'm at in the business right now. And like, but here's the thing: what Kenta's saying is true, and CM Punk knows that also. But that's like the easiest way to get under someone's skin, I think, is to just kind of ignore the truth. Like, like Kenta can say all day, "That's my move. You stole this," so on and so forth. And Punk's just like, "Yeah, I'm not wrestling you though. Like, I don't care." You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So so it's like Kenta's speaking the truth, and Punk just doesn't care. So it just is what it is.
We're going to move on to our WWE spotlight. Stephen Jensen, your favorite time of the show when we talk about WWE. And we're going to start with your spotlight when it comes to WWE. Ronda Rousey is the new SmackDown Women's Champion, having defeated Charlotte Flair in an I Quit match at WrestleMania Backlash. Jensen, I'm sure it just warmed your heart to see MMA legend, women's pioneer, Ronda Rousey use a MMA hold with a chair to force Charlotte Flair to say "I quit."
Yeah, and she added that cherry on top where she was like she's like, "Yeah, bitch," and then like did it like she loves. Yeah,
they love the bitch word in WWE. Like the actual Connor Casey in the chat without the beard in that profile. Look at this. Look at this man without his beard. I don't believe that's actual Connor Casey.
Is Ezekiel?
Yeah, that's not an actual picture of Connor Casey. Right there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, Connor, what's up, man? Thanks for joining in. Yeah. So when it comes to Ronda Rousey and this whole thing, all right, I wanted to make this my spotlight for a couple reasons, but the main one is because I want to give Ronda Rousey and Charlotte Flair a little bit of a shout out here, because that match was significantly better than the WrestleMania match. Like, that was, you know what I mean? Like, this was a pretty good do-over for what I thought was a pretty disappointing WrestleMania match, considering who was involved. I love Charlotte Flair. People hate on me all the time for it, similar to my love for Cody. Like, I'm a Charlotte Flair fan for a lot of reasons. And it's mainly just because I think she's super talented, and I like the gimmick. I like that she's always in the title chase, and that because she's a Flair, she collects, all these title reigns and stuff. Like, I think it works really well for the WWE that she's who she is. When it comes to Ronda Rousey, I think her buzz has it's really, really gone down. She's not this, you know what I mean? It's like this is nowhere near like the level of hype that Ronda Rousey had even just a few years ago. But I think that her beating Charlotte, at least the crowd responded to it. The crowd responded to the match. And I think that Ronda had really, really cooled down recently in the WWE, but this might help spark her a little bit more. I don't think she'll ever get to like the level of fame she was at, early UFC run and that kind of stuff. But I think that this was a really solid match. And if Ronda's going to win the title from Charlotte, this is how you do it. It means to protect Charlotte as well. And they'll definitely run a trilogy, because WWE, they don't even just like the 50-50 book people. They like the 33% and the repeating book people. But yeah, what were you going to say?
Oh, Charlotte's going to be off for some time. The storyline is fractured radius. They say it in some stupid way, like a fracture of the radial. Like, it's so dumb. Just say fractured radius. But that's the storyline reason. They said out indefinitely. I'm pretty sure it's because her and Andrade have like a date and are going to get married soon, and that's why she's off. So she's going to be out for, I would assume, 2 to 3 weeks at the very least, doing all that. So I don't know if they're going to come right back to that. I don't think it's going to be Hell in a Cell. I don't think they're going to come back to it then, because Hell in a Cell is early June. Maybe Money in the Bank, because that's a stadium show. Maybe Money in the Bank. they go with Rousey and Charlotte 3. I agree with you. They're gonna eventually run it back though.
Yeah, for sure. It's just a matter of when. In Ronda, I'm interested in her in Hell in a Cell because they can really play up the whole cage fighter aspect of who she is inside of a Hell in a Cell. Even though obviously the UFC Octagon is nothing the same.
Who's she facing from SmackDown, Stephen Jensen? Can you give me a women's wrestler from SmackDown that Ronda Rousey can face inside Hell in a Cell?
Well, that's what I was saying. Like, that kind of would make sense to run Charlotte then again with like that added stipulation. But if it isn't going to be Charlotte, I don't even know who's on each roster at this point. Or even, what brand what brand is Asuka on?
She's on Raw.
Okay, well, it doesn't matter because the brand hashtag the brand split isn't real. That'd really be the match I'd want to see would be Asuka and Ronda personally.
I think they're gonna do Becky and Asuka, maybe inside the cell.
Well, I think here's the other thing. The other side of this is, will Charlotte eventually get the belt back from Ronda, or will they at some point have Charlotte mix it up to where she goes for the other title belt to stay away from having to get beat again, which is possible. But I think, and you would know better than me because you're a bit more connected to it, wouldn't the obvious move eventually be Ronda Rousey versus Becky Lynch, or has that just cooled down so much at this point that just doesn't matter anymore?
I mean, it's definitely cooled down. I think that Becky can heat it up very quickly because Becky is great at this. They actually had a very good social media exchange where Ronda was talking about being a mom and Mother's Day. She's like, "Moms, I know you're tired. Like, I'm tired too. Like, we just got to push through it. Happy Mother's Day." And Becky just replied like, "I'm not tired." And then Ronda was like, "Well, you didn't work on Sunday." It was a nice little social media exchange between them two. I mean, Becky can heat up anything very quickly, but it's definitely cooled down from, what it was when they headlined WrestleMania 35. Like, that should have been the match at WrestleMania 35 before they inserted Charlotte.
100% agree.
I think they're going to end up doing it at Mania this year, next year, whatever you want to call it. Mania 39. I think that's where the match takes place. So they got a while. I think Charlotte does come back. They got to find something for Charlotte to do outside of the title picture, though. That's all I'm asking. Just find her something to do that's not involved in the title picture, because that's been her whole thing. And I get it. She's hashtag the queen, hashtag bow down, but just prove to me you can tell me a Charlotte Flair story. And she's wanted this too. She said this many times. Just prove you can tell a Charlotte Flair story that just doesn't involve the title. That's what I want out of them. As far as Ronda goes, I put you on the spot and be like, hey, well, who should she face from the SmackDown roster? I don't know who the fuck's on this SmackDown roster. All right. JJ saying Sasha Banks. Scott George is saying Shayna Baszler. I guess Natalya is there on SmackDown. I'm sure Ronda would love to do a program with her good friend Shayna Baszler. I'm sure she'd love to do another program with Natalya.
Have they called up Io Shirai yet?
No, Io's still. I think Io might be injured right now because she has been on TV in a while. But Io is still in NXT. That would be something great. But I don't know if you're going to bring in a cold Io Shirai to face Ronda Rousey, because we've kind of seen how these NXT call-ups go. We know Ronda ain't losing Io Shirai, so I don't know if that's the best way to bring up Io. As far as just match perspective, yeah, it'd be great. We know WWE isn't just going to be like, hey, here's this really cool match that we can kind of build to, and let's go. They're just not going to do that. They act like they have plans and then scrap the plans within 2 weeks. I don't know who's on the SmackDown roster for Ronda to face. Banks, she's one half of the women's tag champs with Naomi. I imagine they're going to keep doing that thing. I guess they could lose them to Baszler and Natalya, but they've also been losing the singles matches, which indicates that they're going to win the tag team match. I don't know who else is on SmackDown. I really don't. You say I'm connected, but I don't really watch that show all that often. Kind of reach the point that you have where, all right, what are the results? What can I watch highlight-wise? That's where I'm at with a lot of WWE programming right now.
Well, that's fair. And I don't want this to go down this whole rabbit hole, but this isn't just another example of why I think they just need to totally get rid of the brand split, because there's so many good women in that company on all four of those brands, like Raw, SmackDown, NXT, NXT UK, that like there shouldn't even be a question of like, well, who's available, who's on which brand. It should just be the best women against the best women. Like it shouldn't even be a conversation of this. Like there should be no block on doing Bianca Belair versus Charlotte or something like that. You know what I mean? Like it's just silly at this point. We all know it's the same company. But that said, yeah,
well, I do a brand split and do it properly, and you have enough talent to actually make it work, but they can't do that either. JJ says Aaliyah is on SmackDown. Great. I remember she beat Natalya in like record time, and then I don't remember her being on television ever again after that.
The same Aaliyah that was in like Breaking Ground from like all those years ago on the network.
Yes,
who was like,
I'm Aaliyah. Awful. Yes.
She's still okay. Hold on a second, because I had seen her like fairly recently, and I was like, this can't be the same person.
Yeah, same Aaliyah.
I'm not gonna say what I want to about that. That's okay. Is she anywhere near like talented enough where like you could buy her like wrestling for like a world title or something at this? I mean, she's been in the company for like it feels like 10 years since that show.
2015 is when she joined the company. She signed in 2015.
Well, and how weird is this? The title belts that, and I don't feel like I'm saying anything I don't think this is even somewhat controversial for me to say. I'm sure someone out there will hear it and
we're gonna get clipped.
Think I'm an asshole for saying this, but like, oh yeah, maybe I'll wind up on Reddit. Yeah. Talk about a site I don't care anything about, Reddit. So the title belts that nobody cares about. Right, those SmackDown or those women's tag team title belts. Nobody, like they're all just makeshift teams, and nobody cares. Those are the belts that go brand to brand. Like those are the ones that have no limitations. Those can be defended against anyone and any brand. This is just silly. Like the least valuable titles can be on either show, but we have to like figure out if it makes sense and if it's possible for Charlotte can wrestle. I think it's just silly at this point.
None of these titles have any value. Honestly, none of them do. They're just there. They're just props. That's all they are. They're cool little props that they sell for $500 on WWE Shop. That's what they do. Jensen, you got your prop belts.
Well, I got an added bonus now because I realized this more recently. Oh no, did I take the batteries out?
Oh boy, does it light up?
You can barely see it. It does light up when you hit it.
That's the crowd noise they use for Edge promo segments right there.
Off the top rope. Off the top rope. I'm trying to turn this thing off now.
But yeah, I mean, so yes, exactly. I mean, they're colorful prop belts. I think Roman has done a good job of making what he holds pretty valuable. But yeah, outside of that, it's, hey, we're just waiting for Cody to win that title so he can bring back the Winged Eagle. All right. So
great segue into Roman Reigns here. That is my WWE spotlight for this week. I mean, you said he's done a good job with the title, and I agree. But now seems like he's going to be working a lesser schedule, which is curious because you put both belts on him, which in theory would mean he would be on both shows to raise the ratings for both shows, and now you are effectively taking him off of all shows. First, bless Roman Reigns. This guy's getting a nice little deal here, not having to work these live event shows. Seems like he's not going to have to work Hell in a Cell. I don't know how much TV he's going to work. That's the life. Roman Reigns has earned that. Credit to that man. But if you're WWE, it's a odd situation to be like, we're going to have one title so our guy can be on both shows, and Roman's our top star. This will be great for both brands. Wait a second. Roman's not going to be on any TV for like the next 2 months. I don't know if that's the best business decision for WWE. And I think they're going to see, like, they got Cody, like he's doing great, like the best he can, carrying Raw in a never-ending feud against Seth Rollins. SmackDown, I don't know what that show's going to do without Roman Reigns, because for the longest time, it was just the Roman show. And now I guess it's going to be the Drew show. Great. Good luck with that. I guess they're banking on Ronda Rousey carrying that. But we just kind of talked about who the hell is challenging Ronda Rousey, if that's going to be the case. This is a big issue for WWE where it looked like, cool, you can just kind of rely on Roman Reigns to sort of keep both shows afloat. And now it's like, you don't have Roman Reigns. I don't know who is the top guy. in WWE right now. I mean, it's kind of obvious it's Cody, but they have not made anybody over the past couple of years during this Roman run where it's like, yeah, Roman's gone, but we got this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. They got some nice like role players who I think could be stars, but they have certainly not elevated them to that level. Cody feels different because he came elsewhere and he feels fresh. Nobody else, especially on SmackDown right now, especially on that men roster, and you know, led by Drew McIntyre, who I think being out of the title picture has helped him a little bit. But they got nobody who feels like a big deal on that roster.
Madcap Moss, baby.
I'm not against it at this point. Fuck, Madcap Moss. We said it last week or the week before. Great WWE wrestler. Great.
Yes. All honesty, it has to be Cody. Like, it has to be. There's no other option. And when you look at the buzz Cody had coming into the company, apparently his merchandise is selling really, really well. And you know, I'm not going to sit here and say like Cody's their next John Cena or their next Roman Reigns necessarily, but I think that, you know, Cody's still in his mid 30s. I think he's like 35 or 36. And I think that like if he stays uninjured and continues to be motivated and like he really wants this to be like that big run where he gets to accomplish the stuff he always wanted to accomplish his entire life, they have a solid, like at least 5 years, I feel like, of him being that guy for them. I mean, and people might hear this and be like, well, what about Roman? Well, preferably you have more than just one. You know what I mean? Like, like, you know, that's, you know, back when we had The Rock and Austin at the same time, and when you had Hogan and Savage and Hogan and Warrior and like so on and so forth, like it usually wasn't just one guy. Like John Cena kind of was the first time we had pretty much just one guy. And then they would have occasionally you'd have like an Edge who would really rise the ranks, or a CM Punk or something like that to really be a rival to Cena. But at the end of the day, it was all about John Cena. And I just, you know, they can somewhat transition Roman into like the Brock Lesnar spot of like not being there as often, but always being a big deal. Cody can carry the workload of being the guy who's there every week with the company on his back for the next handful of years. And you got to create new stars. And I've talked about this a little bit on other platforms and here, I think as well, but, and this is once again, another, just, we don't have to go down this whole rabbit hole with this because there's a lot we could talk about here. We do a whole show about just this, but with the way that WWE has set up their developmental, where for various reasons, whether it's indie wrestlers don't want to sign there anymore, or they want to just have their hand in the cookie jar from day one, and they don't want to have to keep going through the whole changing people once they hit the main roster and so on and so forth, using the Performance Center, actually trying to make the Performance Center a developmental program versus like a place you just kind of sent indie wrestlers for a minute before they hit NXT. All these reasons, if they can just get like one or two, like if they can get like a Braun Breaker out of 100 people, or like a who else is like up and coming in their system? Anyone else?
A lot of people like Carmelo Hayes. I like Carmelo Hayes. I don't trust that he's going to succeed on the main roster, honestly. And I'm not even sure Braun Breaker is going to succeed on the main roster.
Sure. And you know, I liked Carmelo Hayes as Casanova, Christian Casanova. I remember him from the Indies a little bit. He rose the ranks very fast, super talented. My point though is the way that the system is set up, they really only have to develop a couple real standouts if they're going to continue to do what they did with Cody going forward, coming over from AEW. I think they're going to just let AEW be the developmental for them when it comes to certain wrestlers, and just be like, okay, MJF is now a worldwide wrestling star. He's TV ready. He checks every box we need out of a star. All right, cool. We don't have to do any of that ourselves. We'll just sign him for more money, and like now he's a main eventer for us. We didn't have to do any of it. I think that's going to happen with a lot of guys. Not a lot necessarily, well, but we're going to see more back and forth between these companies. Like Cody wasn't the only person who's going to be making moves like this. I talked about it the other week with Stu Grayson, you know, and people laugh at it, but I'm just saying, like,
that's the next big star for WWE. Your guy, Stu Grayson, headlined WrestleMania this year.
I never said he was going to headline WrestleMania. Y'all have put those words in my mouth, but I am saying I think he could do fine in WWE. on his own because he has a great look and he's great in the ring and he's TV ready. So that's kind of where I think their mindset might even be, is like, for every 100 wrestlers we hire to this performance center, if we can get 1 or 2 per 100, like Gable Steveson or whatever. I mean, obviously he's different because of his Olympic and collegiate background and stuff, but like, you all know the point I'm trying to make here. I don't think that, because the way you can see the way it's been working, where usually, and I'm not saying this, I don't advocate anyone to be like fired or lose their jobs with what I'm saying, but the reality is WWE at this point, a lot of the time they'll sign someone, they'll give them a short shot on something like NXT Level Up before it was 205 Live, or a quick run on NXT or something. And if Vince doesn't see it in you, someone like with a lot of talent, like an Alex Zane or an Anthony Henry, or, you know, I mean, there's been so many of them over recent years. Blake Christian, they're there and gone within a year. 6 months to a year. Like, it's they're there, they're developing, they're on some sort of TV show and they're gone. So I think they're just really impatient with like the full developmental process with a lot of these guys. Some of them I think are going to be fine. A guy like Tony D'Angelo is probably going to be fine on like the main roster because they can do enough with his character on Raw and SmackDown that I'm sure they can figure something out. But so once again, my whole point is, I think that they're going to keep letting AEW, keep doing what they're doing. And when they have the opportunity in free agency to pick up stars from them that want to jump over, they're ready to be main eventers for them. And the only issue that you're potentially running with this is kind of similar to back in the 90s when a guy like Chris Jericho or The Big Show or something would come from WCW to WWE, and the locker room, someone like Kevin Owens, for instance, might be like, I'm friends with all these guys, I love all these guys, but like I'm the one who, like, I've had multiple options to leave this company and keep re-signing because I love WWE and I want to be a WWE lifer, so you want it, it's a fine balance between not upsetting your loyal employees, but also pushing people from the outside that you think could be big stars right away.
Well, that's kind of what AEW is going through.
Yep.
And we'll go ahead and sort of jump into this, which will lead into the AEW spotlight, at least mine with MJF and Wardlow, is AEW is going through this with, they got all these WWE guys coming in, and some of the original guys, you can hear it. They say it on television. They say it in interviews. Like, they're not happy with it. MJF, the biggest example. Look, MJF, you kind of never know when he's working and when he is in character and what he's actually thinking with some of this stuff. But if you're going to take him for what he is saying, what is on paper, what is on video, he has said, like, these ex-WWE guys are coming in, they're making all this money, I'm the guy bringing in the ratings. Ricky Starks has said, like, it's cool that like Punk and Cole and Danielson and all these guys are coming in here, like, great, but like, I can run with these guys. Like, let me go and let me like show this stuff. We've seen a lot of AEW acts that have gone sort of by the wayside because the WWE guys, the ex-WWE guys have come in. And in some instances, look, you got to push a CM Punk. You got to push a Bryan Danielson, right? It's got to happen. But there have been a lot of loyal AEW guys now with these contracts coming up. Jack Evans talked about it. He put a lot of blame on himself, but Jack Evans is probably still around if they don't have like Jeff Hardy as like an easy replacement. I'm not comparing the two, but Jeff Hardy slots in and it's like, yeah, you're going to use Jeff Hardy over Jack Evans. Joey Janela, another one. A lot of people, myself included, because I saw Janela's work on the independent scene, I was like, oh, he could AEW. This is a great place for him to shine with his vignettes and the creativity he can do. Never really got there. They brought in a bunch of new talent. He just got pushed by the wayside. Grayson, future WrestleMania main eventer, Stu Grayson, you mentioned him, like, just another example. Like, these guys are going to fall by the wayside, and that is what's happening in AEW. That's your concern when it comes to what could potentially happen in WWE. Because I think you're right. We will see AEW people jump ship, people who, and MJF is going to be the biggest example, but there will be other ones, people who are just frustrated with their spot, where they're at. WWE is like, hey, we kind of need talent and stuff. Like, we could use you. They'll make an offer. They can bring them over, and they will immediately just have that cachet with a certain fan base where they can come in and be perceived as on a bigger level because now they're on WWE. Cody is a the ultimate example, right? Like nobody from AEW outside of like maybe Punk, but like nobody from AEW is going to WWE and is going to be looked at the way that Cody was going to be looked at because of everything he meant to AEW. When it comes to MJF, let's go ahead and touch on this, and then we'll actually get into the spotlight portion. His contract isn't up till 2024. I feel not weird, but just like, why are we having this conversation when it's still 2 years away? I guess less than 2 years now.
Well, it's because he's bringing it up, to be fair.
Oh, and that's exactly what
Yeah.
it is. And this is why he's very brilliant at this, because he's going to keep his name in the headlines all the damn time with these comments. And again, this is why he's brilliant. This is why he's going to make a ton of money from WWE or AEW. My own personal take is I don't really care until November 2023, December 2023, because the landscape, his mindset, a lot can change between now and then. So to talk about it now just feels like, I don't know. Sure, he could go. They're going to offer him a lot of money, I would imagine. Will he be happy? I don't know. What's his mindset going to be? I don't know. A lot can change between now and January 2024.
Yeah, for sure. And this is once again just speculating, but I think if Cody personally could choose only one person from AEW to come over on that current roster, he'd choose MJF. You know what I mean? Like, I think that, and MJF knows this. You know what I mean? Like, I know Cody has even said that since coming to WWE, he's gotten a lot of calls from AEW wrestlers that he's obviously very close with that have put out feelers and said, you know, hey, do you think I'd be a good fit there? And he'll give them honest opinion. He's not just like trying to get people to come over to WWE just to get people away from AEW. He's apparently letting people know, you know, some people, hey, I don't know if you'd be a good fit here or not. Like, you're probably best off being where you're at.
Sabotage AEW by telling them to stay.
Hey, that's possible too at the end of the day. But the way that Cody still continues to talk about AEW and promote AEW, and the way that WWE allows it, see, that's what's so different from him than anything we've ever seen before, is like he's still actively promoting all elite wrestling through his social media, which is like, obviously he's not like telling people to tune into the show each week and stuff, but like he's retweeting wrestlers from there and his AEW merchandise, like the action figures and stuff. So like, I think Cody still wants AEW to succeed. But my point is also, and I talked about this with Stu Grayson a little bit, and as we talked about already, yes, Stu Grayson he was more of a Young Bucks hire with the link the Young Bucks had with the Smash Bros on the Indies and stuff. But I think Cody probably has a real soft spot for anyone who was an AEW Day One original because of what, you know, how involved Cody was with the company and putting it all together. So that link is, I mean, there's nobody better in the WWE right now for AEW wrestlers to potentially have a foot in the door being there than Cody. So I think it just opens up a lot of possibilities. I think that MJF personally, I think that if it's a double-edged sword, because I think if MJF, he could go one of two ways. Either they're going to put the AEW world title on this guy, unless he, like, you know, just mother F's them completely and says, like, do whatever you want with me, I'm leaving in 2024. You know what I mean? Otherwise, I think he's going to win that AEW World Championship. Now, is he going to use that opportunity to be the biggest he can be in AEW and set up AEW's future and stay with AEW and be a long-term top guy in AEW going forward? Or will he use being that high level in AEW as leverage to get a good deal from WWE and jump over? And he's already made his mind up. Like, he knows he's leaving, you know, in 2024, and he's just going to try to get the biggest value he can between now and then. I don't know where he's at with that. The way that he talks makes you think that he doesn't care about loyalty and it's all about money. But this is also a kid that we've seen on the Rosie O'Donnell show talking about how Goldberg and The Rock are his favorite wrestlers, and like he wants to be a wrestler when he grows up. You know what I mean? Like I think 99% of the time he's just working. Like, you know, I think it's very, very, very rarely are you hearing anything genuine from him. So yeah, I know I'm kind of all over the place with it, but I guess to summarize here, I think there's a very, very good chance MJF goes to WWE in 2 years, but I still think there's a very good chance he stays in AEW. but he's a genius, like you said. The fact that we're already talking about it as much as we are, and we're this far off from it even being a thing, MJF's doing what he needs to do to just keep his name out there for a whole bunch of different reasons.
I don't think he's made his mind up at all. And if he has, he's an idiot, because he shouldn't, because a lot's going to change in the next 2 years. He's basically just using Sean Ross Sapp and the entire wrestling media to JJ says he's making my life easier with all the headlines. He completely is. And he's using the entire wrestling media to just keep his name hot, and bless him for it. Look, that's what he should be doing. He's a good businessman. I can't knock the man for that. He's a great businessman at the end of the day. One thing he didn't do good business on was that Dynamite segment. And he didn't do good business on it because for some reason he just let Wardlow get uncuffed, and he just thought Wardlow was going to be fine. I was waiting for the punchline on this, Jensen. I was waiting because Wardlow just signed the contract, as every wrestler does. They don't actually read the damn thing. They just sign it. And it's like, yeah, cool. I was waiting for, after he got uncuffed and he started hitting people, I was waiting for MJF to turn into a dick and just be like, should have signed the contract, dipshit. Like, here's what it said. It said that if you hit any of my security team or Sean Spears or strike me before the match, then this happens to you. Like, that's what I was waiting for this segment. And it never came. MJF just bailed and that was it. And I thought MJF for the first time just looked kind of stupid in a segment where he didn't have to look very stupid in, given what we know about MJF. And it was a great segment. Don't get me wrong. Like, I really enjoyed the segment. But I thought MJF had something up his sleeve there. And when he didn't have something up his sleeve, I was like, oh, that feels like a little bit of a missed opportunity.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But like you said, I thought the segment was really good overall. And I love that MJF is a babyface in one place, place only. Yeah. And that CM Punk is a heel there every time, just because of his feud with MJF.
Excalibur, by the way, got a brush up on his hockey history, saying that CM Punk wearing an Islanders jersey was a John Tavares Islanders jersey, mind you, was a peace offering to the New York and the Long Island crowd. It was not Stephen Jensen. So for those that don't know, Tavares left the Islanders for the Toronto Maple Leafs. CM Punk was trolling with that jersey. Excalibur, great mind, the masked man, as William Regal likes to call him, great mind for professional wrestling, needs to learn his hockey history.
Yeah, so I saw someone on Twitter bring that up because I had no idea either. Like, I thought it was a peace offering too when I saw it. And then I saw on Twitter someone say exactly that dude had left in free agency. So it was actually a heel move. And dude, speaking of that, I mean, I love that we're getting those glimpses of CM Punk as a heel, though. Like,
yes,
he is going to be such a great heel when he eventually fully turns. But yeah, the MJF stuff, I get what you're saying. At the end of the day, I honestly think this was mainly done the way it was, just specifically so we could finally get the Batista bomb through the table, Triple H style, like contract signing, because we've been waiting for it the entire time that this story's been going on for like the last 3 years. We're all like, eventually he's going to turn on MJF and it's going to be just like Batista and Evolution and all this stuff. And last night, granted, he did the power bomb to Mark Sterling, but that seemed pretty symbolic to me. I was like, this isn't a coincidence. It's a contract signing, power bomb through the table. Everyone's comparing you to Batista. Like, he finally did it. So I think that's kind of what that was more about.
I mean, there was that element. There's the element of this is the same path that Cody had to follow to get the match with MJF. He's going to take the lashings. He has to do the cage match as well. Again, he mentioned Cody. What do you call him? Like Cody roller coaster?
Yeah, the roller coaster. Yeah.
So he mentioned Cody out there. It's the same path that Cody had to follow. I know we've talked about it before that like a lot of the MJF feuds follow the same beats of you got to go through these steps to get this match with me. And this is why MJF is so good in that even though it is a very kind of paint by numbers feud layout, when it comes to him, he makes it work every single time. And there's enough different elements to it to where it still remains a little bit of fresh. This one, I'm not the biggest fan of, hey, let's just do the same beats that we did in the Cody feud, but there's enough elements with the Wardlow, with the history of Wardlow to make it still work. I would like them to get off of this path a little bit in the next feud, whatever that might be. And I imagine the world title feud, whenever that happens, if it is CM Punk, I imagine that will have a different path. I think at some point, and if it is babyface CM Punk, heel MJF for the world title, I think it'll be different in that, hey, MJF has to go through this stuff to get this match with CM Punk. And that's how they work that. But I would like to see them get off of this a little bit for his next feud. But they've done it so well with the people he's done it with that it has worked. And it's been Wardlow, who has had his history with. It's been CM Punk, who is one of the best storytellers out there. Chris Jericho, a guy who is the history in and of itself with Jericho. And again, another just fantastic storyteller throughout the history of wrestling. And Cody, kind of the same boat. History, storytelling is there. If they can, I guess if they can keep finding that right mix, they can keep doing it. But I hope they switch it up at some point.
But speaking of Jericho, that dark side of the ring thing they did last time was incredible.
That was so fucking good. I didn't recognize like that it was really Jericho at first. I thought it was just MJF narrating his own thing. I was like, oh wait, no, that's Jericho. And then he was like, wait, is this for MJF? Oh, whatever. He's paying me well. Like, yeah, of course Jericho would just like sell out and do this whole bit. Yeah, the dark side, that was very reminiscent of before the Cody match, where they did the flashback with Jericho and talking about him as when Sammy Guevara is like, he's the youngest AEW champion ever. And they had Soul Train Jones and they had like his teacher or whatever it was, the spoof on Cody's whole thing with it wasn't Roads to the Top at that time, but like the Cody vignette where he's talking about like all the sacrifices and stuff he had to go through. That spoof. That's what it reminded me of, doing the dark side thing. But that dark side thing was so fucking good. I was cackling during that thing. Legendary Jewish wrestler Barry Horowitz make an appearance. So good.
Absolutely. Yes. And that's why I'm always people don't understand like why I like Bill Goldberg so much. Nowadays it's tough to watch, with his age and his limitations and stuff. But because growing up Jewish, up until Goldberg, pretty much all we had was Barry Horowitz. So it was like to finally have like a Jew out there who could like actually kick ass and just wasn't a total jobber. Like that was a big deal. But I will say this, Barry Horowitz should 100% be in the WWE Hall of Fame. Like he's still talking about
Bret Hart agrees. Yeah. Bret Hart agrees. Bret Hart says, Barry never hurt anybody. Goldberg kicking people's heads off, ending careers, injuring everybody's in with. So you and Bret Hart agree. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Like,
well, now MJF is he's our guy. I mean, that's
MJF is going to induct Barry Horowitz into the WWE Hall of Fame 2024. You heard it here first. There you go, everybody. I've broken the news here on the Spotlight.
There you go. Yeah. So anyway, MJF rules. Segment ruled. Wardlow's over as hell. It's all going really, really well heading in, especially because we've been waiting for like 3 years for this, and it could have been overhyped in our own minds heading into this, and I feel like it's delivering. So that's a win as far as I'm concerned.
Your AEW Spotlight, Stephen Jensen, HOOKHausen, they're together. Hook and Danhausen are now the best friends, the uncursed friends, the true mega powers in the world of wrestling. I mean, how big was your pop when HOOKHausen finally formed on Dynamite?
So when it comes to Danhausen, I used to see this dude wrestle in like the Basement East in Nashville and stuff years ago, back before he was the very nice, very evil Danhausen. He used to just like be really creepy. Like he'd come out with like a plastic bag over his head, or he'd come out in like a body bag, and like this guy, he was like nuts. Like he wasn't funny at all. Like he was supposed to scare you. And to see where this guy has come from and to see where he is now as this comedy wrestler has been really, really fun to watch. I shout out Mikey Blanton from Black Label Pro, because I think the first time I remember seeing like the very nice, very evil version of him was at a BLP show. And I think Mikey was one of the first guys to really recognize how big this could be. and I'm sure others did as well, but he's just one that specifically I would definitely want to shout out. And for it's so strange because like the way he's become so famous, like through his social media and everything, and how he stays in character and stays so committed to it. It's really cool to see the spot he's in AEW now, but it's strange because I mean Tony Nese just murked him, right? It was just like he was a non-factor, like just one move, 1, 2, 3. But so you can keep it to where the way that I see it, because also there's other stuff to this too, where like I don't know if Danhausen can keep doing like the tequila spots and stuff that he's known for, because they're gonna pay for the music and all that stuff. But Tony Khan's down to pay for that kind of stuff, so who knows? But the point of all of this is I think that they're positioning it to where Danhausen like can't wrestle, like he's just a total comedy figure that like is gonna just not be able to do anything in ring and just constantly try to curse people. Yeah, and but now that he has Hook's just gonna kick everyone's ass. So it's gonna be. That's why I like this, because Danhausen's gonna think that he's doing it. Like he's gonna be back there trying to curse people, and Hook's gonna be like throwing him over his head or something, and Danhausen's gonna think that he's doing it. Like so. And now it's been kind of a fun like will they won't they type thing with the two of them the last few weeks with it kind of culminating. I think it was on Rampage last week when Danhausen left the bag of chips for him in the ring. And so that pop, you can't deny that pop, whether you like Danhausen or not, whether he's for you or he isn't, whether you like Hook or not, or whatever, the fans are reacting to this. And I did not see Hook going this direction after his debut. I thought they were going to just push him as just like a strictly no nonsense, just super serious ass kicking kind of Taz from ECW 2.0 type thing. But now it's like you're going to see a whole other side of this guy where he's befriended just this absolute weirdo at Danhausen. So like I'm interested to see what happens. And once again, nobody can deny the pop they got when they shook hands last night.
Danhausen has always been an interesting case to me in that I didn't know him as creepy Danhausen or anything. And like when I first sort of discovered like his gimmick, I was like, all right, like this is kind of cool. He made me laugh a couple of times. And then, but I didn't like fully latch onto it, even though I'm sure many people probably thought like, oh, Jeremy, you'd probably love this shit. But like the more I saw just like how committed he was to it. And I think people who know me know that I love a good commitment to the bit. So like the more I saw just like how committed he was to it, was like, oh, all right, I get this guy. Like I see where he's coming from now. And like the fact that he was so committed and just went full on with it and just got himself over with it. Like he got to AEW with it. And I thought like this was just the best thing. I love it. Like I absolutely love it now. I understand why people had reservations when he signed with AEW. It was like, oh, like, okay, you're just going to take this meme wrestler, this comedy wrestler. Can he actually wrestle? Like, where does he really fit with everything? And I didn't know myself, but I kind of figured this is how they would utilize him, is like, I don't think he's going to wrestle that often, everybody. Like, you're not going to see Danhausen out there trying to do like 10-minute matches with anybody. I think he's just going to kind of be like, they're not going to Orange Cassidy him, where Orange Cassidy is sort of comedy wrestler, but then once he gets going, he gets going. Danhausen he's never really that guy. Like, no offense, his in-ring work, even on like the indies, isn't something where you're like, oh yeah, this is an AEW style in-ring work. So I never saw him as that. I saw him just kind of playing this sort of comedy role. I did not think it would be this prevalent though. The EP brought it up last night. Is like, it's kind of funny that like Hook, and you just mentioned like Hook, super serious, badass, just comes in, kills people, doesn't talk, doesn't do any of this shit. Yeah, let's pair him up with like Danhausen. Like, let's pair him up with like the biggest comedy wrestler we have. Like, it doesn't seem like it's gonna work on paper. It doesn't seem like, oh, this is what you want to do with Hook. But you're right. Like the pop that they got, HOOKHausen, everything. And yeah, Kai says like Hook is the curse. And that's essentially like that's what Danhausen thought the other week, where, he's pointing at Tony Nese and he didn't realize that it was Hook behind him. And that's why they backed off with everything. Danhausen has said about like his curses and everything of like, I don't know how they work, but like I do it, and for some reason they just end up working. Like Ricky Starks, he just falls off the ladder. When I do it to Adam Cole, he loses the match. For some reason, I curse people and it works. So he's just gonna curse people, and it's going to be Hook just destroying people. It's like curse worked. It was great. You can't curse, and maybe in the end, that's the curse on Hook, is that Hook does the bidding for Danhausen. That is how Hook is cursed. He doesn't think he has actually cursed Hook, but he has. I love this duo. It's fantastic. Danhausen is so good. Bless the man for committing so much to this bit. And I mean, Hook is great. It's weird. Doesn't seem like it should work. It completely works. I don't know where it's all gonna go, but they're gonna have a role because they clearly like Hook, and Danhausen is super over with fans.
I love that idea you just said. I didn't even think about that. Of like, Danhausen did curse Hook, and Hook doesn't realize it, and the fans don't really realize it yet, but like he is doing his bidding now. Like he has the mind control over Hook now. Like that would be so funny if that's the route they went.
And then when Hook, and then when Taz gets sick of this bullshit and is like, Hook, what are we doing? And when Hook turns on Danhausen, he's gonna be the biggest heel in the company.
That's fair, yeah. And the other thing with Danhausen too is he has like multiple tag teams with people like on the indies that they could bring in or use on AEW over time also. Like him and Orange Cassidy have a team from before, and like him and Warhorse had a team from before, and Warhorse just had that one match with Cody years back for the TNT title. But if he ever gets another look in the company, like Danhausen could have a kind of a whole group of people that are all kind of comedy wrestlers, but that can all wrestle. I mean, like Danhausen, like you said, he's not like the best in-ring worker I've ever seen in my life, but he is a good worker. Like he can wrestle good matches, but he relies heavily on a lot of elements, like the tequila dance specifically. That for people who don't know, that dun 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 dun, like that tequila song, he'll like the whole match will just stop. And he'll be dancing on the ring apron and like kicking guys on the outside, like while the song is playing. That's like a big part of his act. He uses human teeth, and he'll put human teeth into people's mouths. Like he'll have like a big sack of teeth, and he'll put them in someone's mouth, and then like kick the teeth out of their mouth, like people have done in like thumbtack spots and stuff in hardcore matches and death matches and whatnot. But his reasoning is so funny because he explains that. Because I've heard him ask that in interviews where they're like, how do you not get DQ'd when you put human teeth in people's mouths? And he says, well, you can't get DQ'd for just adding something that's already there. Like I'm putting human teeth in a human's mouth, so it isn't a foreign object. And it's like, it's actually genius. Like the fact that he's gone this far to come up with these things. If you want to see real commitment to his character too, I recommend people check him out on YouTube. His YouTube channel himself, he stays in character. But also when he's doing like toy hunts with people like Hook and with Ethan Page and all them. Anytime he shows up on the Major Bros, like he stays in that character the whole time, and it's really impressive how off the cuff he has to be by staying in character, keeping that accent on. He kind of talks like that anyways, but he cranks it to 11 or whatever with the voice and everything. But to stay in character and be that witty and not break character like he does, I think it's really impressive that he can do what he's doing. And nothing but I have nothing but respect for the fact that he has gotten to where he is in the world of pro wrestling. Like because he's the guy who's also, people don't realize, he's been around for like at least 10 years, if not closer to maybe 15, because he had a fledgling run as Donovan Danhausen before this whole gimmick change. He was around for years and it just wasn't working. So it's good to see him finally getting in the spot that he's in now.
Man is committed to the bit, and bless him for it. Tom Talks Rubbish. Our pal says, glad to finally catch the live stream. Love you. Love all you guys do. Big love. Thanks for being awesome. Thanks, Tom. Everyone check out Tom's YouTube channel. He does a lot of interviews.
We've both been on there.
Yes, exactly. So he does a lot of interviews with a lot of wrestling media personalities like myself and like Stephen Jensen. So yeah, everyone go support Tom. Subscribe to his channel. Check out the interviews we've done over there. The interviews a lot of people have done over there. Our Indies spotlight this week, Stephen Jensen. I will throw to you first. Brett Ison is back from Killer Be Killed. Our pal Mose, he ran Killer Be Killed, Blood on My Jeans this past week, and Brett Ison returned, Stephen Jensen.
Yes, he did.
the reason I wanted to spotlight this is because for the Southeast scene specifically of independent wrestling, Brett Ison means a whole lot, especially to like Nashville, Chattanooga, like Tennessee. I think that like it's one of these things where I was just very lucky to be living in that area, and I still do. Being in Atlanta, I'm still close by, and he wrestled for Action in Atlanta and stuff, or in the Atlanta area. But it's just really cool to see because he's the leader of KOBK, Killer Be Killed. Like that's his group, and for them to run this KOBK Blood on My Jeans show, and he hasn't wrestled since the last KOBK show where he wrestled Joe Black, and he didn't know what his future was going to be. He had to get some like medical work done, and I think he just had to figure some things out. And when he left, it was a real like, I obviously know Mose well, and I know some, and they were always kind of saying, I don't think he's like done, but like he might be. He really might be, but he'll probably come back, but we don't really know. And if he does, we don't know when it's going to be. And Brett's a guy that, I don't know him super well on a personal level because I don't think a lot of people do. He keeps very much to himself and he keeps his circle small. But I am proud of the fact that, like, I think that there's trust there to where I've interviewed him before and like I DM with him and stuff occasionally. And, I told him I was real happy to see him back and stuff. And he's always been real good to me. And just the fact that I've got that guy's respect, or at least I feel like I do, that means a lot because he means a lot to me as a wrestling fan because he really helped. He was a big part along with Sup Graps, Southern Underground Pro, of like reinvigorating my love for wrestling back, 5 years ago or whatever, when really all I felt like I had at the time was NXT. And so to see him come back on a KOBK show inside the TWE arena, which he's synonymous with, and he's been TWE champion and a whole bunch of stuff. And so I just wanted to give him a shout out on the show today. Like just the fact that he was back, he came back and he teamed with Merrick Donovan, who's a guy who I think he's going to have a real big blow up over the next, it's happening right now. And he's been having a lot of good showings, but I think that Brett, him being back, it's really good for Southeast wrestling. And I don't know what he wants out of this run. I don't know if he wants to branch out and, get out to West Coast Pro in California, or, if he wants to be a big part of the Southeast first and, their rivalries through uncharted territory and stuff. I don't know what his goals are, but at the very least, I think it's really cool that he's popping back up in the Southeast. And it felt weird having a KOBK show without him involved, and he was involved. Like, I'm glad he was a surprise and he was a part of it. And I'm just happy to have Brett Ison back in a wrestling ring, man.
I obviously don't have the connection to Brett that you do. I did watch some of the KOBK show, saw the return, like got a good reaction. He actually tweeted, like, in case you missed it, Saturday, made my return to independent wrestling after 5 months of learning, lessons, and suffering. But again, I don't have I'm not super familiar with him, especially compared to you, but I do look forward to learning more about him. And I hope that he kind of continues down the good path that he's going on and continues to, inspire people like you, because I can tell just how much he does mean to you. And so that to me, like, that is cool to see. So yeah, shout out to Brett Ison for returning, and hopefully he's doing well and things go well for him. He looks like he's a Calgary Flames fan, so we might have a beef about that.
Yeah, I don't know too much about that, but to another layer of this is, so back, once again, this is probably like 5 or so years ago. I was at a Buffalo Wild Wings, just like at the bar with a friend, and the bartender overheard us talking about wrestling. And she's the one who told me, like, hey, there's this new company that I'm hearing about that's going to be starting called Southern Underground Pro. And I didn't even know that this thing was going to exist. I had no idea about this. And she was like, yeah, my friend Brett Ison, like, he's going to be wrestling for it. So like the first time I heard anything about SUP, it had to do with Brett. And he was like undefeated for a long time. He was the longest reigning Southern Underground Pro Bone Storm champion they've ever had. And so many people came through and wrestled him. Like, he wrestled the Workhorsemen during his run. He wrestled Nick Gage during his run. He wrestled so many good wrestlers. O'Shea Edwards. had a great feud and team with him. So he's a guy that like, it's been really cool seeing the progression of him and what he means to like Southeast wrestling, but also the fact that I didn't even know that this company was around until like, he's always going to be synonymous with that company for me. And that's my favorite indie company that there is. You know, I'm not shy to say it. I love Subgraphs, and you know, it's just really cool to see that he's back. And there was one more thing I wanted to, he was just a little bit more about him. He's like, he started off, I can't remember where he trained and stuff, but I know that he trained along with, and he's a lifelong friend of Righteous Jesse, who is the ring announcer for SUP, who recently just stepped away. But a lot of people know Righteous Jesse in the independent wrestling space. And the two of them are longtime friends. And like Brett did like the backyard wrestling thing throughout like his teenagers and stuff. This is a guy who's a lifelong wrestling fan who has really made a name for himself in the Southeast. And like I said, he's one of those guys who, dude, even people don't even realize when Eddie Kingston cut that promo on Cody Rhodes that like got him his spot in AEW, that was right after Eddie Kingston had beat Brett Ison in the main event of that ICW show. So like Brett's been like right there, you know, he's gotten to wrestle guys like Eddie Kingston, guys like B-Boy, guys that I know are heroes of his. I think his ultimate dream match is Samoa Joe, and I would love to see that happen one day. But yeah, so if you're listening to this, Brett, as a fan and as an ally of KOBK, like I obviously can't claim to be a part of the group. That's a very exclusive club. But as somebody who considers myself an ally to KOBK, it's awesome to have the Pitbull, the Human Shotgun, Kill or Be Killed, Brett Ison back in the ring.
And staying in sort of SUP, but my indie spotlight, IWTV Uncharted Territory, arguably their biggest show, season 4 premiered on Monday, and it is in the South. It is at the TWE Arena in Tennessee, and you know, headlined by AC Mack. I love the video package that they did to open it. We saw our guy Mose was doing the commentary with Dylan over there. AC Mack was there. Violence is Forever. Jaden Newman picking up a win against Alex Kane. I love that Alec Price comes out, and of course, you know, he's the SUP Bone Storm champion, but he ain't really part of that scene. You know, he's one of the North guys, so he comes in there, he's causing a scene and shit. I thought this was a very good premiere for Uncharted Territory, and you know, as someone who has watched Uncharted Territory through the first 3 seasons, it was nice to see a different arena and a different, you know, setting for everything. And we've followed this since the start of this show, the North-South battle between everything. But I really like what's going on. And if this was this first show, seems like a good indicator of sort of where the series is going, what it's going to be in the South, with the North still having a presence on everything. What do you think of the premiere episode?
Loved it, and I think it's cool as hell that so many people from this region of wrestling that have been overlooked are going to get big spikes in popularity through this. Uncharted Territory massively helped Beyond Wrestling when they had it, and helping springboard the careers of a lot of indie wrestlers that we now see on mainstream TV often. And if not, a lot of the people that are like the main people you see, and there's been some others that have been shunned out of wrestling, but we don't have to talk about them. But as far as this show and this whole Southeast First thing, I mean, I will deep dive on this show on the Weekender this Sunday. So if people want to know, like, I'll make this my recommended show on IWTV, and I'll deep dive on like pretty much everyone on the show, person by person. I'll probably talk about it for 20-30 minutes. But there's people on this show, guys like Merck, who is formerly known as Graham Bell, guys like Damian Tangra, guys like Eli Knight and Landon Hale. I'm just kind of going down the card here. I mean, Ashton Starr, Bobby Flacco, Brogan Finley, the brother of Dave Finley, the son of Fit Finley, who's probably still, I remember I saw his like 3rd match ever, and it was like a year ago. He's probably still not even 50 matches into his career, and the guy's going to be a massive star. I mean, other guys that mean a lot to the Southeast that are veterans, guys like John Davis, guys like Anthony Henry, like Balances Forever, like you mentioned, Jaden Newman, who still is like right on the cusp of really breaking out. Balances Forever.
It's a big win. That's a big win over Alex Kane, by the way.
Yes, I agree. And because, of course, you know, Alex Kane, with what he's doing in MLW especially, is like the openweight champion and stuff. when it comes to Violence is Forever, they should be a part of the Blackpool Combat Club. Like those guys would be so perfect for that group. Formerly of Team Filthy, like give me Dominic Garrini and Kevin Koo in the Blackpool Combat Club. I want it so bad. Eric Royal, a guy who means a ton to the Southeast because he's a longtime action wrestling champion. Alex Shelley and AC Mack, you know, there's, and well, sorry, I said Alex Shelley. Wait, do I have the right card in front of me? Action IWTV Southeast first. Oh, I'm sorry. I was going through the other Southeast first show. Most of the same talent.
You had, yeah, it was a lot of the same people.
Yeah,
so
I'm sorry. I
completely catch you on that.
I pulled up the wrong card because I know it was Slade and AC Mack was the main event.
Yeah,
but sorry, a lot of the same talent was on this. I forgot that they had started. I forgot that they did a Southeast first show before Uncharted Territory started. I apologize. I pulled that card up, and that's what I was reading off of. A lot of the same talent, though, and you will pretty much everyone I just mentioned, you will see during Uncharted Territory this season. Okay. That all being said, AC Mack and Slade being the main event, that was another good one where, like, Slade, I'm still kind of lukewarm on Slade. I think he's good, but like he's super over some places and not so much others. I thought this was a great spot to have him in this show because it made him look like a complete psychopath. AC Mack beats him, and then he looks like he's gonna end his life with a cinder block, and then that is how Kruger comes out to the whatever they call him, Cruel Mads Kruger from MLW. You know, Logan Creed, also you can call it whatever you want, a gigantic dude who's good at wrestling. You know, so they set up the future too with like Slade versus Kruger. That makes a lot of sense. AC Mack defending the title on this show, and they've also teased AC Mack and Alec Price because they're kind of holding all the major titles right now when it comes to this show. So yeah, this was good stuff. And I apologize for getting the two shows confused, but that's kind of easy to do when there's so much overlap in talent. But
my favorite user, Robert R. So it's typical.
Why are we even still acknowledging this man?
Because he rules.
I'll say this.
Because he rules.
Hey, Robert, want to know something? I have a microphone and you don't. So you will listen to every goddamn word that I have to say.
Because he rules. Kate is in the chat. Kate says, "How you fly, fellas? Jeremy looks rested. Get to work." I had food poisoning on Monday night, which was very, very bad time. I didn't do anything on Tuesday, which was nice. So I probably am a little bit rested because I was bedridden all day on Tuesday. Kate, your birthday? When is your birthday? If I can potentially pull a headline that will pop you, I will. I'll try to just make something out of nothing. But when is your actual birthday? So I'll try to do that. All right, Jensen.
My birthday is May 22nd, so that's coming.
Is
up
it?
As well.
All right.
Yes, it is.
I got
a lot going on this month. A lot going on. I'm going to give a shout out right now. This is actually pulling back the curtain a little bit. My mother passed away actually on my 14th birthday. Believe it or not. Like as crazy as that is. So it's a 20-year anniversary of her passing. And that's also why I'm planning to donate my hair soon, and because she died of breast cancer. So I want to throw that out there too, because I don't know how many chances I'll get between now and then to shout her out. But like, you know, I just wanted to let people know that this is a real crazy month for me between the new job and like the anniversary of her passing and my birthday and Mother's Day and like a whole bunch of stuff. So this has been a weird month for me for a lot of reasons. And if I'm a little off at the end of the month, that's why, if that makes sense. So
completely understand.
So,
well, if you need anything, you know, the Fightful community and myself are always here for you. So we got your back through all this, Jensen. I'm sorry to hear about your mom, but yes, we got your back through all of this. So Kate's a Saturday. Well, Kate, unfortunately, I won't write a headline because I don't work on Saturdays. All right, you ain't getting me to do any work on Saturday.
Wait,
especially not.
What's the status on the Twitter? Is she back on
Kate?
Twitter? Yeah. No.
I was wondering because I had a question to ask you about your potential new show on Overbooked that I may or may not have just spoiled, that Kate has a potential new show on Overbooked. Drew's birthday is May 23rd. JJ's mom's birthday is May 25th. May is a big month for birthdays, apparently. Good on everybody, I guess. You know, a lot of people, what was 6 months ago from May? What was or
6
9?
months ago?
Say I don't fuck. I'm terrible at that. 9 months ago. What was 9 months ago from May? A lot of people were fucking 9 months ago in May
Right,
to have
Yeah.
Jensen, Kate, Drew, JJ's mom. A lot of people fucking 9 months ago.
Is SP3 a May birthday also?
Alex McCarthy's birthday is today. Fuck
Yeah.
him, but it's his birthday today.
I don't want to say that. I don't know him. I don't know him super well. I know who he is, but I for
you can
whatever
say
reason,
fuck
we
Alex
haven't
McCarthy.
we haven't really crossed paths.
You can say it. When is SP3's birthday?
Oh, Kate, I didn't realize you deactivated. I thought something had happened where like some bullshit happened where like you got reported or something like that. I didn't realize that was your call to do that. Okay, gotcha.
Everyone should deactivate. Oh, I didn't read the part about the violent threats because I wasn't on the screen. Well, I'm sorry to hear that part of it, but everyone should deactivate from Twitter. It's god awful. All right. SP3 does not have his birthday listed on his Twitter profile, so I don't know when his actual birthday is. But yeah, the point is, fuck Alex McCarthy. I think that's where I ended there. All right, major announcement, everybody. We have a huge announcement regarding the future of the Spotlight. As people know, I don't know. I'm not give me a story to pre-write, and I'll pre-write a headline. As people know, we've kind of had time shifts the past few weeks. We've been all over the place. I feel like we did one show at like 6 o'clock one week. We did another show. We've done 5 like a couple of times, like 5:30. It's been a little all over the place. Part of that was like WWE financials, but part of that was Stephen Jensen's shoot job that he has now. And so because of the shoot job is just other schedules, my life as a stepfather and kids and everything, we've decided the best course of action for the show is it'll still be on Thursdays. We are going to get started every Thursday at 9:30 Eastern AM. All right, 9:30 in the morning. We're going to be an early show from now on, so we'll be fresh off of Dynamite. The format will stay the change. The format will stay the same. That will not change at all. We will still have a guest every week, but it'll be at 9:30. It'll still be about an hour and a half of us talking, and then half an hour with a content creator or wrestler. So that is the permanent change. Will be on every Thursday at 9:30 for the Spotlight. So still on youtube.com/Fightful. You can always check the replay. You can always download the MP3. But yeah, earlier for the Brits, which will hopefully be good. I know we have a good British contingent. And yeah, morning for people. You'll have all day to kind of listen to it. Nothing really happens on a Thursday, right? It's Impact Day. No one cares about Impact, right? Right, JJ? Yeah, Grab Sody hours. Grab Sody does very well at noon on Saturdays. FMC, I think it would be if it wasn't a basketball podcast. I feel it would do well at that time slot. I know Degrassi Dudes, again, another thing where you guys go at 10, which it does well. It's a Degrassi podcast on a wrestling channel. And so
for sure, we didn't know what to expect going into that.
Yes,
Yeah.
But like I like the morning stuff. It's much better. I've said this many times, but like I get up at 6 with the kids and everything and get them going. And then I start writing stuff all day. So I did not like doing shows at like 5, 6 o'clock. And I've made exceptions for these past couple of weeks because it just has been a temporary thing, but it would be a long work day for me. Kids are home at 4. So it just becomes a lot to do stuff in the afternoon. That's why a lot of my content now will be morning, will be kind of like 12, 1, 2 o'clock kind of stuff. Because by 4 o'clock, kids being here, I like to check the fuck out. All right. I don't want to do anything else. I got a personal life to tend to by 4 o'clock, and I've already been working for 10 hours. So I don't want to do anything after 4. And I appreciate Jensen accommodating that as well with everything, because we talked about other times. We have Day After Dynamite on Fightful Overbooked at 4 o'clock as well. So I think this all worked out for the best. I think the new time slot being in the morning will hopefully be good. People will have Dynamite fresh in their memory and want to come hang out and talk about that with us, along with everything else going on in the world of wrestling. So I'm excited for the new early time next Thursday, 9:30 a.m. Eastern.
Yes, 100%. And also shout out to our friends over at Late Night Grin. I know that Joe recently started an AM show. I just want people to know before they even go there that like, the reason we're making this change is because this is the only time I can do the show on a Thursday, unless we did it at night, and that's going to cut into Jeremy's time where he needs to be with his family. So like This just happened to be the time, right? Once a week, 9:30 in the morning. This isn't in response or anything to anything else that's going on. It's strictly the only time that I have available. Because I remember when I first got on the show with you, some people were hitting me up like, you're trying to replace Joe. And I'm like, you don't understand. Like, we're all good friends. Like, I talk to Joe all the time. Like, so I just wanted to throw that out there. And then also there was, a programming note. There will be no Degrassi Dudes again tomorrow for the same reasons why we haven't been able to do it the last few weeks. It's scheduling on my end with the new job. But me and SP3 are working to either get a new date and time or figuring out the best way of doing Degrassi Dudes going forward. It may continue to be live on Fridays at around 10 a.m. It's going to be a work in progress. And we are also planning to have an extension of Degrassi Dudes called Nerds of the 90s, where we're going to talk like just obscure 90s TV shows. So we won't, because there's so much Degrassi to talk about because the show was on for so long that like we could do that show for years and never cover the same topic, twice. But we always catch ourselves in these little conversations about shows like Saved by the Bell. So we did like an entire Degrassi Dudes on Saved by the Bell. We've been talking about doing a My Brother and Me show forever and just talking about every episode of My Brother and Me. We've been talking about a lot of that kind of stuff. So just keep that in mind, y'all. Me and SP3, we've been talking behind the scenes. The show's not over. We're going to keep everything going. It's just with my new work schedule, it's been a wild transition to schedule all this stuff. And one of my main things when I took this job, and I even told this to my new employers, I said, it's really important to me for my own mental health that I keep being able to do the majority of what I'm already doing for Fightful. Like I made that really clear to them. I was like, I really want to at least have this Thursday show. I just got to find a time that I can do it. My Wednesday or my weekender won't be affected because that's on Sundays. Post shows for Impact with Denise and stuff like that's on weekends. So I've kept this in mind throughout the entire process is like, I'm not leaving any of y'all, even the people that don't want me here. Like I'm doing everything I can to continue to be a part of this because I love Fightful. I love being able to talk about wrestling. And it's been cool how like, even though it's just been the last few weeks, my love of wrestling is growing even more than it was because like wrestling became my complete job. Wrestling and MMA became my complete job for the last like 4 or 5 years for the most part, between podcasting and video editing and that kind of stuff. And I love wrestling. Don't get me wrong. You can't watch as much indie wrestling as I do unless you love it. But now it's kind of like that feeling again of like I have my work life and I make my money that way and they're paying me really well. And it's a good job and it's a great opportunity. And now in my free time, I'm a wrestling fan. And it's making me even more excited to talk about wrestling because I'm doing so much non-wrestling stuff throughout the day, if that makes sense. So I think it's going to make for better content for y'all, if I'm being completely honest. It's just been a transition of finding the right times to keep all this going. And luckily, me and Jeremy, we got something figured out. Me and SP3 are in the process of figuring that out. And anything I do on the weekends for post shows, watch alongs, weekender pods, that stays completely unaffected because my shoot job has nothing to do with the weekends. So,
and for me, this actually is my life, and I can't stand any of wrestling, but I will always love this business. I guess as far as Late Night Grin and competing against them, I actually texted Joseph. I was like, hey, I think we're going at 9:30 because that's like the only time we can do. And I didn't realize like 10 a.m. was going to be a permanent thing. I know he did it once, and then he said, oh, this seems to work. Let's see if we can do it. And yeah, he was obviously cool with it. And he's like, I'm doing about 1 million shows now. So at some point we're probably going to run into each other. I was like, yes, I'm very happy with everything you were doing. Everybody can go to, the Late Night Grin YouTube, latenightgrin.com. You can go to Wrestle Purist. Joseph is all over there as well. They're doing, I think, like daily news podcast over there. Montel, great dude at Wrestle Purist. So yes, everyone, you can support all of this stuff. There's plenty of content for everybody. Maybe we will start a war, raise the viewership for both things. That's how this works, right? Like when you're actually like, competing against each other, that both of us kind of go up. And then when we're not against each other, everyone just kind of stays the same and no viewers actually come back. That's what happened with AEW and NXT, right? everyone just thought like, oh, AEW is going to gain 800,000 viewers, and it didn't happen. Oh, NXT is going to gain 1 million viewers, and it didn't happen. So yeah, it's a brand split more than a competition or war or anything. But
Yes,
Joseph and I are great. We've always been on great terms, and he understood, and I understood with everything. All right, everybody. Yeah. All right, so that was long-winded. No wonder.
I don't know why you keep reading.
It's so good. He pops me.
Listen, I'm gonna be totally honest. Like, if you keep reading his stuff out, I'm gonna just block him from the chat. Like, I'm gonna be completely honest. Like,
You can't keep power. You're not logged into the StreamYard.
I mean, I could get the code real quick, and that's hard. But I listen. I appreciate people watching, but like, I can't keep just when every other comment's positive, I can't just sit here and focus on just the negative comments. You know what I mean? Like, that's unhealthy. I don't do it on Twitter. I'm not going to do it here. But
that is fair. You know what? And that is very fair. If I think Robert is doing a bit, and like
too. He's trolling.
Yes.
I have no problem with that. Because what he's saying isn't offensive. It's totally fine. But it's the fact that you keep reading it when we have all these other people saying like productive stuff all day in the chat, and they're not getting any love.
They are. I've outright outed JJ and Kate. Kaden is here. Kaden is making a FMC graphic for us. He's on FMC every week with the hockey talk. Drew is here. I always show the chat love.
You
Robert
are now power
me.
driver finisher, and yeah, I mean we can go through the list now in hindsight, but it's like my point is this: like, I don't. Here's the thing. Once again, he's not saying anything offensive, so it's like he can say whatever he wants to. But my thing is like I just don't want to focus on the negative when there's so much positive. You know.
That's fair. That's very fair. All right, Robert. I'm sorry. I'm not reading anymore. You know, I will put Robert in a timeout.
Hey, buddy.
There.
No, and that wasn't even me. And here's the thing. You want to send super chats? We will put it up on screen. You can say whatever you want about me as long as it has nothing to do with something that's like personally offensive.
Gives us a bunch of money there. Robert's on timeout for 5 minutes. All right.
Well, here's the thing. Here's why this is messed up, what you just did, because Robert just got blocked because you're reading his stuff out. I didn't tell you to block him based on what you were saying. I said it because you keep reading it out. Yeah.
I feel bad that I read it out, and so I had to take it out on Robert. I'm sorry, Robert. I actually like you, and you popped me, but I gotta make good with my co-host here. He's more important to me than you are.
Like I said, he can say whatever he wants in the chat as long as it isn't crossing like that personal boundary. You know what I mean? He isn't. He's not even anywhere near crossing that boundary. But it's the attention that bothers me. It's like we could be sitting here all day reading these great comments that people are leaving about the stuff we're actually talking about, not this guy who just has a hard on for making fun of me. You know what I mean? Like, trust me, I appreciate a good troll. I have trolled many of people in my time in the internet over the last 30 plus years, but at a certain point, it's just unhealthy. You know what I mean? Just weird at a certain point.
I feel bad. I'm sorry for reading out the comments, Jensen. Robert, you can keep trolling. I will no longer read them unless you send us money, and then
if you send us money, we'll read it. But I don't see that money either, to be fair. So
I don't either. It just goes that fucking greedy money bag Sean Ross Sapp. That's who gets it. Jimmy Van, who doesn't give me any of it. That's who gets all the money, not us. The working men.
We get paid to do the show. Don't get us wrong. We get something to do the show.
I don't get paid to do this show.
Okay, we're not going to talk about money here on the show. But the point is, if you send a super chat, we will read it. But like, that's not you. Here's the thing. That's going to motivate Robert probably even more. So Robert, you can send a super chat. We will read it, and you will have the added win in your mind because we don't even see any of that. So
I don't get paid. You get paid to do this show? Am I supposed to get paid to do this show? Sean's just like, here's $5, write a bunch of articles. And I'm like, do I get paid for anything else that I do? He's like, no. I'm like, all right, well, I enjoy this business. So I'll just keep doing all this stuff. I got to get paid to do this show. Shit. I just kept doing it out of the kindness of my heart. That's annoying.
Yeah.
Joel Pearl says, what if the troll was Robert Roode? Could be. He's not doing anything, is he?
If that troll is Robert Roode, I have plenty I could say.
But he's not doing anything. What is Robert Roode doing?
No, I'm yeah. We've already given this way too much attention.
I'm trying to stall for 5 minutes to see what he comes back with, just to see what he says.
Well, it's gonna be. I mean, even if we were running the running the interview. I mean, he'll. Oh, actually, that might work out well because at a point during this interview with Alex, I even mentioned haters in the comments. And like that's probably going to come up again here in a second. By the way, y'all, twitch.tv/Fightful Gaming. I'll be on there at some point tonight, but it's looking like with the half-hour interview about to come up, it'll probably be about a half hour of me on stream playing Mario Kart. I got a hard out at 8 p.m. tonight. But I mean, what do you want to do here, Jeremy? Do you want to run the interview, or do you want to sit here and wait for Robert to troll me some more so we can talk about it? Like,
Kaden, you don't get paid for FMC. You don't get paid anything for that. I will pay you for the graphic.
The only thing I don't get paid for at Fightful is the things I do on Fightful Overbooked. I'll say that. Everything else I get paid for.
I would like to get everybody paid for Fightful Overbooked, but yeah, that is something that is just a vanity project that I had to rebrand. I don't know why I called it a vanity project. It's really not, but it's something that I had to rebrand and refocus on. And now I had to just reshift a bunch of stuff, and we're still working on all of that. But I would like to, at some point, make that sufficient enough to where people get $1 or $2 from that.
Of course. Well, that's basically for Twitch. I mean, I'm basically don't get paid for Twitch either, but those kind of things, that's for love of the game. I like that I can talk about Degrassi with my friend SP3. Like, we were doing that show for free on another platform before Overbooked anyway. So like I don't have any gripes about it, but that's just full transparency. Like, if for people who wonder, you know, like I like The Weekender and post shows and watch along and stuff. Yeah.
Most of us are doing this because we love the business, the content side, really pulling back the curtain here. The content side, in the most profitable thing in the world. Most of my money does come from the fact that I crank out. That doesn't sound good. I write 20 articles a day and the lead writer when it comes to the news stuff. Content wise, I don't see much from. All right, I don't see much from. So
I like Pile Driver's comment there. I would like for no one to get paid, unfair to the viewers. That's pretty funny.
All right, everybody.
Robert's out. All right, time for the interview, so we can. All right, let's go.
All right, everybody. Creator Spotlight this week is Alex, Queen of the Ring. You may know her from Church of Joshi podcast. She does Spotify or Complex has a deal with Spotify, the Complex Wrestling podcast. She's been on WWE Digital. We get into all of that. We also talk about a little bit of RuPaul's Drag Race, which confused Stephen Jensen. She showed us the coolest thing in her room. Alex is tremendous. I hope everybody enjoys her story of how she got into the wrestling media and how she went from literally just a fan at WrestleMania to appearing on WWE digital programming. Here's our Creator Spotlight with Alex. Welcome back, everyone, to the Creator Spotlight here on the Spotlight on Fightful.com. A familiar face who you may know, Alex, Queen of the Ring, is here, from host of Complex Unsanctioned, also Church of Joshi. Alex, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm doing good. I actually just got back from the pottery studio. That's been my new hobby, so apologize if I'm like covered in clay.
I mean, we got to ask, what have you been making? Yeah, I mean,
yes.
I've been making planters, honestly, because one of my bamboo plants, the potter like broke, and I'm like, well, I have access to a studio now, so I might as well make one. So yeah, I've been making some planters and just like some pinch bowls here and there. But
very nice.
It's been a good journey, yeah.
Nice. It's always good to have some hobbies. Like, that's always a thing that I always tell people. Like, you know, have something to go, like, take your mind off stuff that, like, you feel like you can get better at too. Like, if it's a new thing, like, you'll get better at pottery over time, and you'll like see like the progression, and it'll make you feel good. Like, it's good to have like hobbies like that.
Yeah, especially when you're in wrestling media. For sure,
Yeah.
you need a break. Like,
Yes.
I'm sure y'all already know where it's just like, especially being on wrestling Twitter, especially like dealing with everything. Like, you just need a break. Chuck your phone across the room and just unplug, you know?
You've got to log off just a lot, honestly, but you definitely got to have those breaks and get away from all of that. Alex, I want to get started by asking you, how did you get started, like, in the wrestling media world?
It's been a long journey. I've been doing this for 5 years now. So I was an actor. that's how I've just been so comfortable in front of cameras and everything. I went to acting school. I went to a college for acting and studied theater. And I mean, I've loved wrestling all my life because I have two older brothers and I grew up in the 90s. So they were like suplexing me for days, you know, pile drivers. And especially like being born and raised in New York, you know, whenever WWE was always in Madison Square Garden, like it was just such a huge spectacle in my household. So wrestling has always been a part of my life. And you know, I had breaks here and there. Obviously, when you're in high school, I'm sure y'all know when you know you're in high school and people are like, "You're still watching that?" You're like, no, I'm not watching that." You know. But especially, you know, as a girl, I was just like, "Oh, I'm definitely not watching wrestling. What are you talking about?" You know. But yeah, it's just always been in my life, and I went to school for acting, and you know, wrestling's kind of the same thing. It's theater, it's drama, pageantry. So I went to my first WrestleMania, which was WrestleMania 33. That was in Orlando. And I was just sitting there. I was with my friends. I was with my ex-boyfriend at the time. And they were just, I remember these like two huge dudes sitting behind us. And how I am now, I was just like going off about this move and that wrestler and this wrestler and what their gear was wearing and this and that. And like, these guys were like, "Man, I've never met a girl like you before that like is into wrestling. Like, do you have a podcast? Like, you all are just gelling together." And I was like, "No, I don't have a podcast, but that seems like something I should do." Because at the time I was auditioning and, you know, the good old New York story of a struggling actor. I was bartending and you know, I was doing stand up and improv in the city and I studied UCB. So I was like, I want to do something more. And especially, you know, I guess like 4 or 6 years ago, YouTube was such a huge thing, especially for actors. Like, you'd always put your reels up there or your audition tapes up there. So I was like, okay, I have some experience with YouTube and sitting down and recording myself. So why not do this with something that I love, which is wrestling? So I took a whole year to study like algorithm and YouTube and podcasting and coming up with a name. And I first came up with Queen of the Mat. And I was like, that's weird. I don't think I like that. And then I saw Beth Phoenix had a shirt on Pro Wrestling Tees and it said Queen of the Ring. And so I copied and pasted that logo and into Photoshop and I made my own logo, which was Queen of the Ring. And then the rest is history. My first event I went to was the 2018 Royal Rumble, which was the first all-women's Royal Rumble. And that was the first event I vlogged myself. And even vlogging, like, I didn't know what I was doing, but I was like, why not? The camera's on, and I know how to turn it on. So, yeah, it's been like that ever since.
Okay, so we're going to probably jump around quite a bit here because I've got to ask next. Hearing you going to your first like WrestleMania and everything, I was there as well at WrestleMania 33 in Orlando. That was an awesome show, and like the venue and everything. That's still my profile picture ever since. Like on all my social media is me at WrestleMania 33 because I thought like the set looked so cool and everything. And so fast forward a few years and you wind up actually like doing stuff with the WWE, like with like, you know, their actual production and like talking to people. Was it the bump that you did? It was.
Yeah, I did. I was a part of the bump and then I did the Royal Rumble watch along for 2021 last year.
That's right.
Yeah, and then I did the Ultimate series, which is like Ultimate WrestleMania and Ultimate Backlash.
See, I remember seeing that pop up on Twitter because I'm pretty disconnected from the WWE product nowadays. Like I live more so in like the indie world and AEW and stuff. But I pay attention to WWE because like you got to, if you follow wrestling, you got to at the very least be following. And I remember thinking it was so cool seeing stuff popping up on Twitter that you were actually doing stuff on WWE programming. So congratulations to you, first of all, though. That is awesome. Going from a fan just like 5 years ago to being on the shows. And I do remember seeing that about the bump and about the watch alongs and all that. And like, so how did that come to be? Like, who reached out to you and like, how did that happen?
So one of the producers from the bump DM'd me and it was in my requests folder. And I saw it was in my request folder and I was like, this can't be real. So I DM'd him back and sure enough, he was real. I thought it was just some troll, like just trying to, there's trolls everywhere all over the internet, especially wrestling Twitter.
Oh, there's probably someone in the comments watching right now.
Yeah, probably.
So yeah.
So he reached out to me, and it was like, hey, we might have a position opening up for the bump, but we'd love to have you on and do something, get some interviews in or something with you. And I was like, there's no way that this is real. Like, I still was pinching myself the whole time, because when I started this, that was never a part of the goal. I don't have any goals even now. Like, I just go with the flow and I do anything that makes me happy. And especially, again, with wrestling media, like, there's so much to catch up on, there's so much to digest and then to review and then predictions and there's so much. And when I started this, that was never a part of the goal to like work with WWE. It just happened. And they reached out to me, and then we did the bump with the Royal Rumble. They said that they were going to do a watch along on YouTube and if I would like to be a part of it. And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? So I was a part of it, and then I was on the bump. And it was funny enough, the episode I was on the bump where I had to pick my numbers for their Royal Rumble predictions, they were interviewing Charlotte Flair, and I'm on screen because I had to do it through Zoom. And I'm getting ready, and they're in my ear, and they're like, okay, we're gonna count you in about 5, and oh yeah, like Charlotte Flair is gonna be here, so you'll have a chance to talk to her. And I'm like,
real casual.
Yeah, like, huh?
Just no heads up, just like you can ask Charlotte whatever.
Yeah, and I guess like it was good marketing for them, because like Queen of the Ring and then the Queen, Charlotte Flair, it's like, this is great, but what the heck? You could have gave me like a day warning or something, not like a 5-minute warning. So like we go live, and they're like, oh, this is Alex, Queen of the Ring. Like, do you have anything to say to Charlotte? And like, she was just promoting Mountain Dew. And I was like, so nice to see you. Mountain Dew. It's great, right? Yeah. Baja Blast. Like, I had no idea what to say to her. But I guess I pulled myself off very well.
What if she just started cutting a promo on you and be like, I'm the real Queen of the Ring? Like, what is this? How do you respond to something like that?
See, I would pan the camera to the floor and start bowing down. Like, what do you do?
That's a good response, yes.
Yeah.
That would be very good.
Yeah, so like she was super cool, and then like we did that, and then it aired the next day. And then we did the watch along, and I just so happened to win the Royal Rumble prediction because I drew number 3, and that was Bianca Belair, and then she won the Royal Rumble that year. So then I guess built up a good relationship with them, and they invited me out to their studio to do the Ultimate WrestleMania, and that was just insane because you're driving up to Stanford. I don't know how to drive, so my friend drove me. I'm like a pure New Yorker. I do not have my license, so my friend's driving me, and he's like, this is the coolest shit that you've ever done ever. I'm like, yeah, I don't know how I got here. And that's like a running joke that I always have with myself, is like, I don't know how I got here. I just exist in this space, and people just seem to be happy that I'm here. So yeah, I went there, and then they had all these they had Taker's jacket and like WrestleMania signs and everything, and it was just like so wild. And like the studio where they filmed the bump was there, so it was really great to work with everyone and all the producers, and Matt and Ryan and Sam, like they were absolute sweethearts, and they welcomed me with open arms, and I was petrified. I really was, because it's intimidating. Like, first of all, the whole set there is just intimidating on its own. They have all this like old memorabilia, and of course you don't want to be a mark. But I did sneak in a point at the WrestleMania, because the WrestleMania sign, because you could not,
you got to.
Yeah, you got to. But yeah, it was so wild, and I still can't believe that I did that, because again, like you said, like I went from being a fan like literally my entire life, because again, I grew up watching that since like I was a wee little thing. And
I know you're a long-time Shawn Michaels fan, presumably from his run in the 90s originally. So I
Listen, I was looking for some Shawn Michaels memorabilia, a jacket, a hat, or something. They didn't have it.
Earrings,
But-
something to maybe snatch up.
Yes, and to be honest, might be good because I would have snatched it up. Exactly. I would have like, I don't know where it went. Sorry. But yeah, it was just so wild. Like, you know, it just like proved that if you work hard and you believe in yourself and you're happy with the product that you're putting out into the world, like, you know, things will happen. And again, it was never a part of my goals to work with them, but they liked what I was doing, and they were very specific that they liked, I made that Shawn Michaels video on my YouTube channel where it's like top 5 favorite Shawn Michaels gear. And again, that's like me bored with a green screen during the pandemic and just being like, what can I do for a video? You know, I did wrestling ASMR where I'm tapping on championship belts like ASMR and whispering promos. Like, it's just me in my bedroom just having a good time. So it's just, the journey is wild.
I think a lot of stuff just starts like that. Is you're just kind of doing what makes you happy and doing what is
Yeah.
fun for you, and then you never know where it actually leads to. And another thing that you got going on is the Complex Unsanctioned podcast on Spotify. I know this is a new thing this year, and like I know tonight this will actually air tomorrow. So by the time this is out, Big Swole was on the show last night, and then you've interviewed people like Liv Morgan, Faye Jackson has been on, Jade Cargill has been on. Like, how did this whole thing come about?
Again, I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. It was actually my co-host Sir Wilkins. He this is pretty much his baby because he wanted to do this podcast for a while, and he had some connections with Complex, and Complex, like, again, another network that's just, how am I even here? Because they do Hot Ones, and I love Hot Ones. I watch that show all the time, and then their sneakers show that they have. So yeah, this was his pretty much creation, and I guess they were looking for a co-host, and my name came about, and I remember he DM'd me, which is funny enough how business inquiries just happens with DMs instead of emails.
That's how everything
Yeah.
works nowadays.
Yeah.
Is DMs, yeah.
And it's always like you never know like how professional you should be in a DM versus like an email and stuff because everyone's so casual in DMs usually. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like, do I throw an emoji? Do I not?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So he DM'd me and he was like, hey, did you get an email from Complex? And I was like, no. And then I got an email from Complex and I got the notification. I was like, oh, I did, BRB. And then they emailed me and they're like, hey, we're doing a wrestling podcast and we'd be interested in you, you know, if you'd like to be a guest. And your co-host would be Sir Wilkins. And I remember Sir Wilkins because he's from New York, and seeing him at indie shows, especially like shows like Evolve and Battle Club Pro. So I knew who he was, and I was very familiar with his other podcast called Jobber Tears Podcast. And I clicked with him very well. Like, whenever we saw each other in person, we just always, you know, said hi to each other. I always had nice things to say and the same back. And I was surprised he wanted to work with me. And I was like, yeah, sure. Well, let's do this. And then it blossomed into this, and I didn't know it was gonna be like this. We're on Spotify Live, which is a brand new app on Spotify, and it's really cool because it's basically like Twitter Spaces a little bit, you know, like Clubhouse Twitter Spaces, where we are actually live and the audience can participate and they're in the chat. And like when we had Liv Morgan on, like all the Liv Morgan fans came through, all of them, which was cool because, like, you know, the chat was just going off with questions for her. But it's nice because I feel like with the name Complex, there are, you know, these superstars, these wrestlers that come on, and sometimes they could just like turn it off a little bit, you know, because wherever they go, yes, they have to promote themselves, the company, the shows that they're on, you know, especially Liv Morgan. At the time, you know, she was on promoting WrestleMania, but when she was on, we were talking to her about horror movies and her love of crystals and, you know, and tarot cards and everything. And I think that's the beauty of the show, is that, you know, wrestlers will come on and they'll talk about wrestling. They'll talk about their journeys, their gear and all that stuff. But I love to know who the person is, you know, and I love to know what they're into, what inspires them beyond wrestling. Because, you know, you have people like Jade Cargill. When she was on, it was super cool because she was talking about her love of N64 games and she loved GoldenEye. But that's the thing, is that these people that we love watching every single week, they have other interests besides wrestling, you know? And that's why, you know, Jade Cargill will come out dressed as Storm because she loves X-Men and she like relates to that character. And even Liv Morgan herself, when she comes out with this like Britney Spears gear, like there's these other interests that I think there is a market for that. And again, like, you know, when Xavier Woods is doing Up, Up, Down, Down, and he's having these superstars come on and talk about like video games and their love for it, like that's the stuff that I always love as a fan, you know, when talking about contracts and everything. I know Fightful does that a lot, but I myself as a fan, I never had really that much interest in that. So it's nice to cater to a different department within the niche of wrestling within the show. So, yeah.
Look, that's all Sean Ross Sapp. He wants the contract information, not Jensen and I. If wrestlers want to come on here and talk to Jensen and I, we want to talk about like matches, and we'll get into some non-wrestling stuff. I don't care about contract stuff.
He needs the scoops. That's why.
Yeah, Liv, if you want to come on and talk about Chucky, I know she's a big Chucky fan. You want to come on and talk about Chucky? We can do that.
Hey, Jade Cargill, if you want to come on and talk about Nintendo 64, yes. I got you on that all day. So I lived in Nashville, Tennessee for about 10 years or so before moving to Atlanta a couple years ago, kind of right around the time of the pandemic. And I used to go to a lot of shows around Nashville. And one of the best friends that I made while I lived there is named Kayla. And I was first exposed to you through her, mainly through y'all's Twitch communities. Mm-hmm. And I've never asked, how did you and Kayla meet?
So we met at WrestleMania 34. We met in New Orleans. And before that, we were following each other. And by then, I was already Queen of the Ring. I was already doing YouTube. And we met, like, we were just following each other on Instagram. And I remember instantly, I was like, that girl looks really cool and I really want to be her friend. And I think our connection with Collar and Elbow, because I think she was like featured on their page and I was as well. That's how we followed each other. And she slid into my DMs. That's again, DMs. That's the running theme for the show. But she slid into my DMs and she's like, are you going to New Orleans? I'd love to meet you. And I was like, yeah, I am. And I remember Collar and Elbow was having like this Bourbon Street party at a club with Kevin Nash. And I was like, I'm not a clubber, and I was bartending, and I don't like the idea of going to a bar or a club. Like, that's just me. I like going, but it's just like, you know, I'm not a partier like that. And I DM'd her and I was like, are you going to this? And she's like, sweetie, no, I'm old. I'm not going to that. I was like, okay, cool. Let's go to other shows together. And we just like instantly clicked. And then we were at WrestleMania. We were going to shows. We went to Progress. And then we went to Spring Break, Joey Janela's Spring Break. And then it was the Monday before Raw that day. We went to the Museum of Death in New Orleans. And then that's how we just clicked. We clicked through true crime, and we were talking about mine hunters, and we were in the Museum of Death, and like we're like bonding while we're looking at John Wayne Gacy's like pictures that he drew in prison. It was great. It was a magical time. And then we were just inseparable ever since. Like we just had other interests, like Drag Race. We loved RuPaul's Drag Race, and then just so much music and movies and horror and like Marvel and Star Wars, and like there was just so much that we bonded over besides wrestling. So that's where we met, and we've just been inseparable ever since. And then when the pandemic hit, we would have Skype parties like everybody else would, but we would watch wrestling. And there was one night where she wasn't on our Skype party. We were watching Akira Hokuto versus Manami Toyota. And everybody on the Skype call was losing our fucking minds because like we'd never watched that match. And we were like, what is this? This is so cool. So then I discovered it was Joshi Wrestling. And then Kayla had already started up her Twitch channel, and she was like, I want to do like a show on my Twitch channel. I'd love to do something with you. I was like, why don't we just get into Joshi wrestling? Like it was a form of wrestling that we had never dipped our toes into. So we were like, let's do it together, you know? And so that's how we recreated Church of Joshi. And it really just started from us just wanting to get more into the art of Joshi. And we always say, like, we're no experts. We don't know a thing. We're 2 years into it now. Like, we're a little bit of experts now. But at the time, we were just like, you know, we don't know anything about Joshi. So if anybody wants to come watch us every Sunday and watch wrestling with us and watch Joshi, like, if you're experts, educate us, you know? And I think that's the beauty with us because, you know, we're two women in wrestling who are always told, like, oh, well, if you don't know this person, you don't know wrestling, or if you haven't watched this match, and it's just all, like, BS at the end of the day from some of the fandom. So I think the beauty with us in Church of Joshi is that we've created this path and this community where it's just like, you don't need to be a smark, you know, you don't need to know everything. And if you don't know anything, feel free to ask us, because we'll gladly educate you, and we'd love to be educated as well, because that's the beauty about wrestling, is that there's so much happening right now where nobody needs to know everything that's going on. And also, you don't need to love everything that's going on too. Like, there's just so much happening, especially now, where it's like, what, 15 years ago, there was barely any wrestling to watch, and even there was barely access for any wrestling to watch. So, like, you know, what's the point of, you know, being in this community, being in this fandom, and just acting like a, you know, fucking smartass?
No, you're preaching to the choir. This is stuff I always talk about. Like, it's wrestling is so a la carte now with so many great options that, like, you can really pick and choose what you like and what you don't, and you don't have to, you know, bitch about everything you don't like. Like, you just watch something you like. It's like really easy to like find good wrestling that you're going to be into. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and there's always going to be somebody where it's just like, well, you don't like the wrestling that I like, so there's always going to be that person. But you know what? That person can stay in their corner, because we're very accepting towards, like, and even besides Joshi, like, Kayla's on her Twitch channel watching Lucha Underground, and she's never watched it. And there's people that's watching with her that's, like, excited to see her reactions. And it's the same way with Church of Joshi when we watch it. Like, there are matches that we've never watched before. Like, I remember she watched a Megami Kudo match, and I've watched Megami Kudo, and my mind is still blown with the performances that she's put on. But it's fun to watch my best friend experience this, and it's also fun where it's just like, where I have a question about it, if something that I might not know about an event, like, there are people that are there to educate us and hold our hands a little bit. And it's like, you know, there's always going to be somebody that's going to be upset that we don't like the wrestling that they like, but, you know, to each their own. Like, it's such an open world now where, again, like, you know, I'm sure y'all experienced it when you went to high school. Like, you'd get bullied for liking wrestling sometimes, you know? And even now, when we're well in our 30s, people still look at us like we like wrestling, but then they love John Cena, they love The Rock, you know? And sometimes they come to us and they're like, hey, it's Ronda Rousey is wrestling, like, what's going on there, you know? And we're here to educate them. So
it's so funny because that doesn't change for some people, because, like, there's a guy that I work with, like, outside of wrestling, like, in like just like a normal job that I used to work with, and he is an older guy, about 10 years older than me, real strong Southern accent. So this is me being him, but yeah. I saw on his desk he had these little they're like Funko mystery mini WWE figures that he had. He had like a little Sting, like a little Razor Ramon or something on his desk. And I was like, hey man, it was like my first day, and I'm like, hey man, you like wrestling? And he was like, no man, you know, my kids are into it. They got so many toys at their place. I just bring them in, and I just have them here, so I don't have to throw them away. And I was like, dude, I have like a wrestling podcast, and like I'm like super into it. And he was like, yeah, man, I watch Raw every Monday. And it's like I unlocked it with him, right? And now ever since, like, we always just talk about wrestling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But people are
Alex-
afraid. They don't want to get bullied because they don't want to make fun of liking wrestling, which is silly. You know?
There's that guard you got to put up sometimes where it's like, yeah, do you like it? You got to feel it out a little bit, you know? And especially now where it's just like with AEW being a thing, I feel like a lot of people are really into it, you know? Where it's like there is a difference between AEW fans and WWE fans, especially like mainstream, where it's like mainstream AEW fans were like, what is this? Like, what am I watching? You know? And the same thing with WWE fans, but there is like both in itself, both fan bases. And again, it's an open world. There's that excitement of like, oh, I found somebody else that likes wrestling. And then you like come into work that like Sunday after and Monday, it's like, did you see the pay-per-view? Oh my God, that was so crazy, you know?
Yes.
I know we got to wrap up soon, but I'm going to ask you two quick ones. First one is favorite drag queen.
I have to pick just one.
You can name a couple.
Okay. I love Trixie Mattel. I love Trixie
very
Mattel.
Nice. Yes, she's
so great. I love her. She is such a goofball. I've seen her live a couple of times and she's amazing. I really love Sasha Velour because I actually got to see her performances in Brooklyn a couple of times and she's amazing.
I saw her live. She was great.
Yeah, she's really good.
She puts on a really great show.
Yeah, she puts on a really great show. Very memorable show.
Yes.
And I do love Bob the Drag Queen. And I love his podcast. Yeah. His podcast, Sibling Rivalry. And he's just like always going off with Monet Exchange. But I love Bob the Drag Queen. And I think his stand-up like is something else. Like he has a really good stand-up routine. I think he's probably one of the funniest drag queens that's entered like the workroom.
See, Bianca Del Rio is forever my queen. she's fantastic. I've seen her live and she kills it. She's by far my favorite. She is, but it's the best. It's the absolute best.
I love it. She deserved that win. Like she won with flying colors that season.
Yeah. And then last one, coolest thing you have in your room. It seems like there's a lot of cool things.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cool things. Hold on. I'll get my biggest cool thing that I need both hands. Hold on 1 second.
All right. I know I lost Jensen completely on the drag race talk.
I was actually trying to look them up as you were saying that. I found Bianca Del Rio. I was just trying to see who you were talking about. I don't know anything about that world.
I got this. It was like my 23rd birthday. And I had the money and I went to a comic book store and Rogue is my favorite X-Men. I love the X-Men so much. And it was like, I had my hard-earned money. I was bartending at that time and I really wanted to splurge on myself for the birthday gift. And so I got this like Rogue figure and she's like destroying a Sentinel. It's so great. This is like the coolest non-wrestling thing that I own. And I think this would be something I would save if there was ever a fire here.
Very cool.
I had to get it. Yeah. And I also just watched Multiverse of Madness. It was so good.
Alex, let the people know where they can find you at.
Yes. So this is going to be a long list. Bear with me.
That's
if you want to listen to the Liv Morgan episode, Jade Cargill, Bianca Belair from Complex Unsanctioned, you can follow us on Spotify. We go live on Spotify Live every Monday and Wednesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. And if you want to get into Joshi Wrestling, you can follow Church of Joshi everywhere on Twitter and Instagram. We also have a Patreon, Church of Joshi. We have really cool exclusive stuff. We watch more matches there. We have a good time there. And we go live every Sunday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time over on twitch.tv/KaylaVision. I also have a Twitch channel where I've been diving into the world of Total Divas, and it's been unhinged, but I love every second of it. So you can follow me on twitch.tv/Queen of the Ring, and then Queen of the Ring with 2 G's on Twitter, _Queen of the Ring on Instagram. I'm also on TikTok, Queen of the Ring. I've been diving into that world, and I believe that is it. Oh, also
Degrassi, which she has been a part of Degrassi Dudes. So she is in rarefied air as a guest on that show. So it was really good to see you again, Alex. It's been a minute, but it was great to catch up with you.
Yeah, it's great to catch up with y'all. Thank you so much for having me on this show. It's so much fun.
Thank you for joining us, Alex. We really appreciate it. Guys, we'll be right back here on the Spotlight. We're back as I load everything up. There's Stephen Jensen. Hello, Stephen Jensen.
Hey.
We appreciate Alex for joining us on the Creator Spotlight. Jensen, go ahead and plug anything you would like to plug.
Okay, well, really quick, just because we went through the whole episode without mentioning it somehow, shout out to Darby Allin and Jeff Hardy for their match last night at Dynamite. I wanted to throw that out there real quick. The stuff Darby was doing off that ladder was that was insane. I wanted to throw that out before the end of the show. As far as the stuff I got going on, here in minutes, twitch.tv/FightfulGaming. Check it out. Me and Joel are going to play Mario Kart for a half hour. If you have a Nintendo Switch, I think you'll be able to jump in with us still, even though it's a last minute thing that we're kind of doing. The Fightful Select Weekender podcast every Sunday, FightfulSelect.com, talking the world of independent professional wrestling. And that's pretty much it right now as far as the stuff I got going on the next few days. Follow me on Twitter at FightTalk_. I'll keep you updated there.
Guys, everybody can go to twitch.tv/FightfulGaming. Jensen and Joel will be doing Mario Kart. I'll be on there probably tomorrow playing No Mercy. Everyone go to Fightful Overbooked. Check out all the content we have over there. More content coming. We got FMC with myself and SP3 tomorrow morning at 8:30. Caden will be there doing his hockey penalty box talk with myself and SP3. Share might make a run in. We have challenge talk as well. So all non-wrestling talk on FMC every Friday at 8:30. Day After Dynamite was on today. Garrett Kidney was the special guest with Will Washington reviewing Dynamite. I made a run in on that show explaining how Garrett got me in trouble with WWE. So everyone check that out and listen to that story and listen to the review of Day After Dynamite. What's up, Jensen?
I got one more thing before I don't want to forget. And I think you'll like this too.
Okay.
I wrote a video. It's on a YouTube channel called All Things MMA. It's about the career of Charles Oliveira. It came out the day after his last fight this past Saturday. So you might want to check it out because I know you're a big, long-time Charles Oliveira fan. And if you're an MMA fan, I think you'll really like that video. So check that out, All Things MMA.
He looked great in that fight. My guy, Du Bronx, Charles Oliveira. That was a great fight. And same with Tony Ferguson getting his face kicked by Michael Chandler. That was a hell of a finish. Poor Tony Ferguson. Ooh. All right, guys, we will be back next week. Reminder, next week starting at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. That is our permanent time moving forward. Appreciate the support, everybody. Thanks again to Alex for joining us in the Creators Content. Catch you guys next week. Bye.